Chapter 629. The seven-star saint knew so clearly that he was in Wei capital, but he didn't know where the Gold Rock saint was in Jinyuan City. When Chu Yang saw this person's appearance, he immediately revealed his white teeth and smiled. Then, he pinched his earlobe as if he couldn't hear clearly and asked, "What did you say just now?" "I didn't hear you clearly. The seven-star saint is in Wei capital of the Wei nation. He also intends to assassinate Chu Qingtian," the person said again. "What did you say?" Chu Yang still didn't seem to hear clearly, causing the person's pupils to tremble. Then, Chu Yang said to the people on his left, "You guys stop first. Let me ask you a question, who am I?" "Chu Qingtian. How is Chu Qingtian?" The mirror of clarity hangs high and sees through everything. After that, Chu Yang smiled and looked at the person again. "It seems that there's nothing wrong with my ears. Please say it again." The person gritted his teeth. "The seven-star saint is in Wei capital now. He also intends to assassinate Chu Qingtian." Bang! Chu Yang suddenly attacked and killed the person with a slap. This person said that the seven-star sect can't even take care of themselves now. How could they have the time to assassinate me? However, he just said that the seven-star saint wanted to assassinate me. Don't you think he deserves to die? The remaining people's pupils constricted again. It seemed that Chu Yang was really omniscient. After that, the remaining people became much more obedient. Many of them were spies. They were well informed and had a lot of information. As a result, Chu Yang naturally received a lot of information. The Wei nation, Wu nation, Korea, and Qi nation, the Soul Devourer clan and the Longhu sect all had people who wanted to assassinate Chu Yang. Among them, there were also people from the Five Elements sect who wanted to assassinate Chu Yang. Chu Yang wasn't very surprised. There were definitely many people in the Five Elements sect who wanted him dead. The further down the list, the more complicated the information Chu Yang heard. A lot of it had nothing to do with him, because the people at the front had already said everything they could, so the people at the back could only say what was valuable. Chu Yang naturally wouldn't refuse any valuable information that came his way. These people were willing to share valuable information that did not affect their own interests. Thus, in the end, there were not many people left. Soon, a person walked out from the crowd and sent a voice transmission. "Chu Qingtian, 3 days ago, there was a Li family village about 50 kilometers away from Jinyuan City. There were close to a few thousand people there. Men, women, old, and young were all massacred by the Thousand Devil sect. Not a single one was left alive." After he finished speaking, this person became somewhat nervous. This was especially so when he saw the anger on Chu Yang's face. He could not help but tremble with fear. "Are you sure it was done by the Thousand Devil sect?" Chu Yang transmitted his voice, but his cold voice made this person feel at ease. Chu Qingtian was not angry because this information was worthless, but because of what the Thousand Devil sect had done. "Very sure. Why did the Thousand Devil sect do this?" "Chu Qingtian, I haven't been able to find out. However, there is definitely more than one incident where the Thousand Devil sect massacred the Li family village. This person passed through safely." The person behind him also sent a voice transmission. "Chu Qingtian, I heard that everyone in Wei Nation's Jinyuan City was massacred. However, I still don't know who did it. However, according to the information I received, it should be the Thousand Devil sect." "What?" Chu Yang's entire body was shaken. Forget about the stopper. But, he actually slaughtered everyone in the city. This is too deranged, isn't it? I accidentally received news about this. This is related to the Thousand Devil sect. The Gold Rock Holy Sun suddenly disappeared. No one knows where he went. It is very likely that he went to the Thousand Devil sect to get the soul-tempering gourd. Chu Yang's body trembled again. He sent a voice transmission. "You mean to say that the Soul Devourer clan and the Thousand Devil sect colluded, and then the Soul Devourer clan used the Thousand Devil sect to massacre everyone?" This person was frightened by the ice-cold voice. He almost knelt down. He said in panic, "Chu Qingtian, please spare my life. I only heard about this by accident. I don't know if it's true. Therefore, I didn't dare to report this matter to the higher-ups. What is the soul-tempering gourd that you mentioned? Chu Qingtian, I really don't know about this. I only met a severely injured person by chance. Before he died, he told me such a shocking thing. As for the soul-tempering gourd, I only heard about it from that person. I don't know what it is. So, you made up the story about the Gold Rock Holy Sun going to get the soul-tempering gourd, right? This person was even more terrified. Chu Qingtian, it's definitely not a fabrication. After that person died, I left immediately. Then, I saw the Gold Rock Holy Sun appear from afar. Chu Yong roughly understood. Although it was not a fabrication, it was at most a guess. However, combined with the matter of Li Jiasai being slaughtered by the Thousand Devil sect, he vaguely felt that there was a big secret behind it. What exactly is the Soul Devourer clan doing? Chu Yang suddenly felt that this Gold Rock Holy Sun was extremely dangerous. It won't be dangerous if I kill him. He could not always be so passive and wait for people to assassinate him. Therefore, he should settle the score with whoever killed him. Otherwise, everyone would think that he was a pushover. The Gold Rock Holy Sun, the third princess of Wei Kingdom. Chapter 630. A man should kill, and he should kill without mercy. The immortal undertaking of 1,000 years is determined in the killing. In the past, there were heroic men who were loyal to their friends. Killing with a single glance, their bodies were lighter than a feather. There were also men who took over the world, slaughtering their own messes. They galloped underground and only praised their weapons. Today, I seek such a person, but it is futile. The crowd roared angrily in unison. It was as if a huge river was rushing towards the East Sea. It was as if a huge dragon was surging in the void. Amidst such angry roars, Chu Yang slowly turned into a black dot in the distance. Then, he completely disappeared. The angry roars all stopped. This Chu Qingtian had finally left. He's alive. He's finally alive. Many people sat on the ground, paralyzed. They felt that their throats had finally come back to life. They couldn't help but let out a long breath, as if they could spit out a mouthful of fire. This Chu Qingtian really had endless methods of torturing people. Their throats had suffered greatly today. They still had lingering fears. This Chu Qingtian was really like a god. He seemed to be omnipotent and omniscient. He was also temperamental like a tyrant. It wasn't easy for him to hold on until now. It was really impressive that he could survive. This day was extremely long for these people. It was as if they had spent 10,000 years in hell. However, time passed very quickly. Night had unknowingly enveloped the land and started to spread across the land. Night, Jinyuan City. In the middle of the night, Jinyuan City was brightly lit by tens of thousands of lights. From afar, it looked like a starry sky. The tens of thousands of lights were like stars, and the Merry Pavilion was the brightest star among the stars. What a beautiful night! What a beautiful Jinyuan City! Chu Yang looked at Jinyuan City in the distance and couldn't help but exclaim. Xiao Guori on his shoulder cried out in agreement. Hehe, boss, when are you going to charge in? Xiao Wu asked excitedly in his consciousness. What do you think? Xiao Wu's excitement was immediately extinguished like a flame. He almost knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Boss, I was wrong. I'll definitely put down my knife and become a Buddha. However, it was cursing in its heart. You told me to put down my butcher's knife and become a Buddha, but you picked up the butcher's knife and became a demon. It's true that only the magistrate can do whatever he wants, but the commoners can't. Who said that we can't fly in the sky above Jinyuan City? I'm going to try flying. Whoosh. When Chu Yang saw Jinyuan City again, he thought of the 4 members of the Sun Clan. He also thought of what Sun Yonggan had said about the despicable people who were forbidden to fly in the sky above Jinyuan City. Immediately, he leaped up and flew toward Jinyuan City. Now that he had become a 4th-grade array master, he could clearly sense the great array of Jinyuan City in front of him. It was merely a peak grade 4 array formation, which was infinitely close to a grade 5 array formation. Although it could kill a cultivator at the 9th level of the Soul Reincarnation Realm, it couldn't do anything to Chu Yang, who was a grade 4 array master. Who asked him to be so familiar with arrays? That bastard is really black-hearted. Is he planning to control the entire Jinyuan city's grand formation and massacre the entire city? When Xiaowu saw Chu Yang's actions, he immediately knew what Chu Yang was going to say. He chuckled in his heart and said, "However, I like it." He dared to guarantee that Jinyuan city wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. In the dark night, Chu Yang was like a nightingale. No one could see his figure at all. Bang! The protective shield formed by the great array of Jinyuan city was directly broken by Chu Yang. Who immediately, a loud shout came from within Jinyuan city. "Haha, it's me, your grandfather. I am the cruel tyrant Chu Qingtian, who knows everything from the heavens to the earth." Chu Yang's loud laughter resounded in the sky above Jinyuan city, shocking many people. There were people who tried to stop him, but they instantly lost sight of Chu Yang's figure. They could only see a black figure flying across the sky, but they didn't know where he went. The strangulation formed by the great array was completely useless against Chu Yang. The guards of Jinyuan city couldn't do anything about it at the moment. They could only pretend that nothing had happened and report the matter to their superiors. It wasn't absolute that flying was forbidden in the sky above Jinyuan city. However, for someone who had the ability to completely ignore the great array of Jinyuan city, all of this was bullshit. Chapter 631. Chu Yang was familiar with sneaking into the Jinyuan city great array and silently seizing control of it. This was an easy task for him as well. This was due to his cultivation as a grade 4 array master, his terrifying deduction ability, and his vision and knowledge. The 5 Elements sect's protective mountain array was at least a grade 6 array. Chu Yang had control over a portion of it, so he had a deep understanding of the entire protective mountain array. In addition, he was a habitual offender. Not only did he make use of the protective mountain array to do as he pleased in the 5 Elements sect, but he also controlled the great array in the Judgment Hall and almost killed the Judgment Elder. Therefore, a mere grade 4 array in Jinyuan city was nothing to him. The Merry Pavilions array was grafted onto the Jinyuan city's great array. Chu Yang directly sneaked in and seized control of it. The moment he successfully gained control of it, he felt as though he had become a peerless hacker in his previous life, peeping at everything as he pleased. At this moment, the entire Jinyuan city was within his perception, and so was the Merry Pavilion. However, he discovered the aura of a familiar person at the core of the Merry Pavilions array, Misty. Not only did Misty have control over the Merry Pavilions array, but she could also directly control the great array of Jinyuan city through the Merry Pavilions array. This beauty was not simple. Chu Yang followed the aura and quickly tracked down Miss Yi's location. Immediately, the scene there was imprinted in his perception. It was as though he was monitoring Miss Yi from afar. A martial artist would kill in anger, but a martial artist was definitely not a fool. Without absolute strength, one could only be angry and not kill. This so-called Miss Yi was a little too extraordinary. Naturally, Chu Yang had to investigate her. This was a secret room. There were 3 people in it. One of them was wearing a mask, and it was unknown whether he was male or female. Chu Yang had seen the other 2 before. They were Miss Yi and Ju San, the auctioneer of the Merry Pavilion. On Miss Yi's peerless face, there was a faint trace of shock. 4 soul reincarnation realm experts couldn't kill him? Immediately after, she frowned. Why haven't they sent any news? Could it be that they completely ignored my rule of sending news back at least once every 2 hours? Plop. Ju-san immediately knelt down. City Lord, we still don't know the reason behind this, but they definitely don't have the guts. We weren't able to kill him. He came at night, so I'm afraid he didn't come with good intentions. The masked man said darkly. Third Princess, I don't think he would dare to be impudent in Jinyuan City. Who would have thought that Lady Yi from the Merry Pavilion was the City Lord of Jinyuan City? If he dares to act presumptuously, he will be walking right into a trap. When Chu Yang heard this, he was too lazy to listen anymore. Using the formation in Jinyuan City, he was directly teleported to the entrance of the Merry Pavilion. His appearance out of thin air gave everyone a big fright. Young Master Chu, welcome again. It was still that ascending soul tier attendant. When second Fatty Jin brought Chu Yang to the Merry Pavilion, It was this attendant who had received him. Pa. Chu Yang raised his hand and slapped the servant's head to one side. He reprimanded, "Do you know how to speak properly? Call me young Master Chu. Call me Chu, the great demon Chu Qingtian. Do you understand?" Yes, yes, yes. Anger flashed across the attendant's face, but he immediately nodded and bowed. The people at the side were all shocked. At this moment, when Chu Yang arrived, someone had already rushed back to report it as if his life depended on it. Those who came didn't come with good intentions. Regardless of whether it was the attendant who was slapped by Chu Yang or the person who rushed back to report it, he could smell the scent of blood. A huge storm was about to erupt. The surrounding people also seemed to have smelled a trace of a strange scent. They looked at Chu Yang with extreme caution. Chapter 632. Chu Yang went straight into the merry pavilion. Everyone in the merry pavilion hurriedly avoided him, fearing that they would not be able to catch him in time. A row of beauties and a row of waiters respectfully welcomed Chu Yang with fear and awe. This time, he was not riding on second Fatty Jin's coattails. The extravagance of the merry pavilion was once again displayed in front of Chu Yang. It was as if a seductive woman was wrapping her limbs around him, pulling him into endless decadence. "Ha, Chu Feiren, why are you here?" A burst of laughter came from the merry pavilion. "Monster Chu, you are here. Why didn't you inform me in advance? I could have made the arrangements." Second Fatty Jin. Second Fatty Jin came over quickly. Everyone felt as if a huge rock was rolling towards them. "Do I know you very well?" Chu Yang glanced at him and made a running motion. He trotted up and seemed to be facing the incoming ball. Then, he kicked it fiercely, shot. Rumble. Second Fatty Jin's meatball-like body flew out, crashing through everything in his way. The entire merry pavilion shook and rumbled, as if it was going to collapse. Instantly, the entire merry pavilion was in chaos. At the same time, many eyes stared at Chu Yang. How dare he cause trouble in the merry pavilion? He must be tired of living. "Be careful, your eyeballs." Chu Yang's lips curled up into an evil smile. Suddenly, the surrounding eyeballs could not help but hold their breath. What amazing perception! How could many people in the dark not know what Chu Yang meant? "Bastard, bastard, bastard Chu, bastard Chu," Second Fatty Jin cursed in his heart. Luckily, he was thick-skinned. If it was someone else, they would have been kicked to death. However, he immediately rolled back and said with a smile, "Great Monster Chu, your kick just now was really full of charm. I, your little brother, am extremely impressed. My respect for you is like 100,000 mountains, and also like my fat body." Bang! Second Fatty Jin was miserably stepped on by Chu Yang on his stomach. "Second Fatty Jin, you are a regular here. Aren't I waiting for you, Monster Chu?" Second Fatty Jin was about to cry. There was no need to take revenge here. "Oh, your filial piety moves the heavens and the earth. I am about to cry because of you." Chu Yang looked at him with a smile. "Your close friend, Wu Guanqi, is here. Tell him to come here and kneel, or I will kill his whole family." Bang! The merry pavilion seemed to shake. Although everyone was shocked, no one dared to make a sound. Second Fatty Jin's fat body trembled like a wave as he thought to himself, "Bastard Chu, what are you doing? Even if you want to cause trouble, you shouldn't do it this way." He had a premonition. Monster Chu, bang! As soon as he opened his mouth to speak, Chu Yang sent him flying with a kick. Second Fatty Jin cursed in his heart. However, Chu Yang chuckled. He glanced over and immediately turned into a fat quail. "Second Fatty Jin, I told you to tell someone to kneel in front of me to show off my brilliance. Didn't you hear me?" The people in the merry pavilion were still numb from the shock. Chu Yang was too daring. He actually dared to say that he wanted to slaughter the entire Marquis house. Second Fatty Jin cursed in his heart for a while before immediately roaring, "Wu Guanqi, you son of a bitch, did you hear that? I've been kicked twice. If you don't come down, your whole family will be slaughtered." He was very sullen. Who dared to kick him like a ball? However, Chu Yang was not a human. He had no temper at all. Especially this inhuman. There seemed to be something wrong with him. "Young Master Chu, Are you planning to be impudent in my merry pavilion? A charming and flirtatious voice. Chapter 633. Whoosh. A fragrant figure floated over, and the aroma immediately filled the surroundings, going straight into Chu Yang's nose. A graceful figure with perfect curves and a charming face appeared in front of Chu Yang in an instant. It was as if the heaven and earth would be captivated by a single smile of this charming woman. At this moment, the beauty whom the heavens adored was unhappy, so it was as if the heavens were enraged, and all of its anger was displayed on this charming face. It was as if dark clouds had closed over it, and lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, as if the fury of thunder would immediately erupt. There were not many women in the merry pavilion who were as charming as her. There were even fewer women in the merry pavilion who had such power and prestige. There were only 2 women in the merry pavilion who met these 2 conditions. One was Misty, and the other was the 3rd princess of the Wei kingdom. Wow! Chu Yang exclaimed, after not seeing you for a few days, I found that Misty has become even more dazzling, making men's hearts waver. It's really like how a fish sinks, a wild goose lands, shames a flower, and hides the moon. Misty, please let your beauty accept my kneel. Young Master Chu, did you come to my merry pavilion tonight to be presumptuous? Chu Yang's frivolity made Miss Yi's face darken. Her charming face seemed to be even more thunderous, and her voice was even colder. No, no, no. Chu Yang shook his head and said, Miss Yi, don't misunderstand. I'm not here to be presumptuous, I'm here to kill. After a pause, he smiled and said to Miss Yi, I'm here to kill a chicken to show the monkeys and slaughter a dog to feed the temple. Who knew that I would meet such a beautiful hen like you? Boom. Everyone was shocked, but no one dared to make the slightest sound. None of the people present had ever seen anyone who dared to be so presumptuous in the merry pavilion, and they had never seen anyone who dared to call the owner of the pavilion a hen in front of her, saying that he was going to kill a chicken to show the monkeys. Second Fatty Jin's heart and liver were trembling at this moment. Chu Yang had really gone too far. Was he planning to kill the 3rd princess of the Wei kingdom? How dare you? Lady Yi's face was frosty, she was terrifyingly cold. Missy. Chu Yang was calm and collected. Who are you to say that I am arrogant? The mayor of Jinyuan City? The mayor of Jinyuan City. Chu Yang's words were earth-shattering. Lady Yi from the merry pavilion was actually the city lord of Jinyuan City. Even Second Fatty Jin was shocked. He knew that there was such a city lord in Jinyuan City, but this city lord appeared and disappeared like a ghost. He had no idea who this city lord was. He would never have thought that this so-called Lady Yi was the city lord of Jinyuan City. Miss Yi, no, the city lord of Jinyuan City, suddenly narrowed her eyes. Chu Yang had actually seen through her identity. She was overwhelmed with shock and confusion. Chu Yang only smiled. The identity of the city lord of Jinyuan City is dogfart to me. Miss Yi, you should change your identity. Otherwise, I will not be happy. Lady Yi's beautiful eyes turned cold. Chu Yang, since you know that I am the city lord of Jinyuan City, how dare you act presumptuously in front of me? Chu Yang became impatient. Are you deaf? I just said that the identity of the city lord of Jinyuan City is dogfart to me. Even the emperor of Wei is nothing to me. The emperor of Wei is nothing. Boom. Everyone present was so shocked that they felt their entire body go numb. How arrogant, how presumptuous, and how lawless his words were. He actually dared to say such words. However, in Chu Yang's eyes, killing others was just an enemy, a dead person. Chapter 634. First, be my live-in servant girl. Second, I'll kill you. Chu Yang's voice wasn't loud, but when it landed in everyone's ears, it was like thunder rumbling. The entire world was shaking. The entire place was dead silent. There wasn't a single sound. Describing the city lord of Jinyuan City, the pavilion lord of the merry pavilion, like a beautiful hen was extremely frivolous. If it was him, he might be able to laugh secretly. But at this moment, who would be able to laugh? The Chu Yang in front of them was either a demon king, a retard, or a lunatic. Chu Yang's unbridled behavior was obviously because he had nothing to fear. Miss Yi had misgivings. If Chu Yang didn't come prepared, He wouldn't dare to do this. However, she didn't know about Chu Yang's trump card at all. Therefore, she was even more fearful and didn't dare to make a move at this moment. Chu Yang, are you trying to start a war between the Five Elements sect and the Wei Nation? You still know that I'm a disciple of the Five Elements sect? Chu Yang's sarcasm caused her eyes to narrow. Chu Yang knew a lot more than she had imagined. That's a misunderstanding. She gave in and was prepared to negotiate. However, I don't accept it. Chu Yang sneered in his heart. You didn't kill me with a single slash, and now you dare to negotiate with me? Do you really want the Five Elements sect to start a war with the Wei Nation? She was thoroughly enraged. What kind of status did she have? Chu Yang didn't even give her the slightest bit of face. I don't care. Chu Yang said coldly. Now, I'll ask you again. Will you be my live-in servant girl or die? Rumble. Suddenly, the entire merry pavilion shook and started to collapse. Misty, who was caught off guard, immediately made her move. She instantly released her domain and enveloped Chu Yang. Her domain was extremely powerful. It was a level 6 domain. There were 9 levels of the soul circulation realm, and with every increase in level, the might of one's domain would increase by 1 level. The first level of the domain would be able to cover an area of 100 feet, the second level would be able to cover an area of 200 feet, the third level would be able to cover an area of 300 feet, and so on. A grade 6 domain could cover an area of 6,000 feet. The smaller the area, the more powerful it would be. Clang, clang, clang clang clang, buzz buzz buzz. The 9-dragon bell rang loudly, and the 7 slaughtering swords shook the sky. The array diagram buzzed, and the void trembled. What a joke. You want to kill me with these 3 inanimate objects? All of a sudden, Miss E's aura surged. How about this? Is it enough? Bang. Chu Yang stomped on the ground and activated the array of Jinyuan City. The entire Jinyuan City shook violently. Outside the merry pavilion, a thick array pattern appeared in the huge Jinyuan City. It blossomed with dazzling rays of light, and illuminated the entire Jinyuan City. In fact, it seemed as if a big sun had risen in the dark night. Immediately, a domain swept out from his body and collided with the domain that was pressing down on him. In an instant, cracking sounds could be heard. The domain of the other party exploded with a bang. Bang! A beautiful figure was sent flying and crashed heavily on the extravagant wall of the merry pavilion. The entire wall collapsed, and the large and round luminous pearls on it fell down one by one. Jinyuan Great Array. You actually controlled the Jinyuan Great Array. How is this possible? Miss E, who was as beautiful as a flower a moment ago, was now covered in blood. Her hair was disheveled, and her body was covered in blood. Her extremely shocked voice resounded throughout the merry pavilion. The merry pavilion became even more silent. It was as though time had stopped at this moment. The Jinyuan City's Great Array should have been controlled by the City Lord of Jinyuan City, who was Miss E. However, everything had been reversed. As the City Lord of Jinyuan City, she was unaware that Chu Yang had stolen the control of the Great Array. How is it impossible? Tonight, I am the City Lord of Jinyuan City. I am the ruler of this place, the king of this place. You are not. Tonight, I am the king. Chapter 635. Chu Yang's movement technique was as fast as lightning. As he moved, there were many illusions of him. His front, back, left, right, east, west, north, and center were all illusions of him. Each of the illusions was moving forward, backward, south, or north. No one could tell which one was his real body. The most bizarre thing was that the illusions moved to the left, then to the right, then to the north, then to the south. Most of the illusions were the same. After looking at them for a while, many people felt dizzy. A sense of confusion surged from the bottom of their hearts. The 7 Annihilation sword in Chu Yang's hand glowed with a light that could cut through everything. It seemed to be able to destroy gods and souls. The 5 elements chaotic steps, the incense elephant crossing the river, the cutting off flow, and the sword martial spirit's soul-slaying might. This sword seemed to be a sword from outside the heavens that could destroy gods and Buddhas. This sword strike was even more unbridled and reckless. Impossible, impossible, this is impossible. Miss Yi Yi, whose hair was disheveled, looked like a ferocious ghost. Her mouth was full of disbelief, and her face was full of horror and malevolence. However, when she saw Chu Yang's sword coming at her, her reaction was not slow at all. A city comes from the west. Her slender, jade-like hand punched out with a delicate fist. The entire merry pavilion was collapsing, and the rumbling sound was deafening. Since she had obtained her delicate fist, a city was punched out. It was small at first, but it quickly enlarged, and met Chu Yang's sword head-on. In this city, there was an endless stream of horses and carriages, and people were moving like ants. It was a bustling scene. It was as if she had been hiding the entire Jinyuan city, and now, she finally took it out and displayed it in front of everyone. The city martial spirit was comparable to the vast and vigorous nature martial spirit. It was even more vigorous than the city martial spirit. At this moment, Chu Yang seemed to be facing a city with only one sword. However, there was no trace of emotion on his face. Rumble. Suddenly, a big hand reached down from the top of the merry pavilion. It was as if the big hand of a heavenly god had broken through the sky. It grabbed the city on the ground and moved it away. In an instant, the city was directly grabbed by the big hand, lifted up, and moved away. In an instant, there was nothing in front of Chu Yang. Kai. His sword pierced through the throat of the city lord of Jinyuan City, the so-called misty. Can, her hand subconsciously reached for her throat, and she fell straight to the ground with a thud. Even before she died, she was still in disbelief. As for whether she was in disbelief at the fact that Chu Yang had taken control of Jinyuan City's grand array, or was it because of Chu Yang's incomparably stunning sword strike, she didn't know. Although everyone was shocked by the godlike hand that had appeared and taken the city away, it was easy for them to understand what had happened. It was the power of Jinyuan City's grand formation. Chu Yang used the power of the Jinyuan City's great formation, and captured that city. As he looked at the corpse of the Jinyuan City Lord, Chu Yang's heart didn't waver. Right now, he didn't care about the danger or the consequences. He didn't care if a war would break out between the Five Elements sect and the Wei Nation. He also didn't care if the Wei Nation would crazily take revenge after he killed someone. If you want to kill me, I will kill you. What bullshit big picture, no matter how powerful your Wei kingdom is. If you can't, then I can't. You want me to have grievances that I can't redress and take revenge? You are all delusional. With his personality, it would have been impossible for him to do this in his previous life. In that kind of world, he wouldn't have done this either. However, it was different in this world. In this world, martial strength was respected. He was a martial artist, which meant that he was now a martial artist. Since he was a martial artist, he should act like one. Chapter 636. The City Lord of Jinyuan City, that so-called Lady Yi, was dead. Who would dare to make a sound now? At this moment, who wouldn't be afraid of Chu Yang? Chu Yang realized that he wanted to imitate the ancient customs and become a martial artist, but he realized that he had imitated the wrong way. The boldness of a martial artist, in a moonless, windy night, killing people in anger, chopping off heads and drinking wine, wrapping up the heads, how carefree, how carefree. He did not have much of this feeling, but his various actions appeared frivolous, slick, and scoundrel. However, he was targeted and killed all day long, and there was always a heaven-striking divine sword above his head. His nerves were tense at every moment. Now that he had broken through to the first level of the ascending soul realm and became a fourth-grade array master, he could enter Jinyuan City at night and steal the control of the city's array as easily as taking something out of his pocket. He could enter the merry pavilion as if there was no one there. He was the king, and he was the only one who reigned supreme. Of course, this was only the beginning. The main character was not dead yet. Next would be the third princess of Wei Kingdom and the Gold Rock Holy Sun. Second Fatty Jin, go get the wine. I want the best wine, haha. Chu Yang laughed loudly. If I want you to die, you have to die. That's what you're capable of. Drinking wine will delay things and give you time to escape. What's the point? Drinking wine is the most important thing. Killing without drinking wine, what kind of man is he? Second fatty Jin was stunned. When he heard Chu Yang's words, he couldn't help but be shocked. He bounced up like a ball. Yes, yes, yes. Second fatty's lackey will bring you the wine immediately. Second fatty Jin unconsciously used the word sir. He was really frightened by Chu Yang. However, the wine was brought after a while. Gu gu gu. After drinking to his heart's content, Chu Yang suddenly choked and coughed incessantly. He immediately cursed, who said that martial artists must drink wine to kill? Grandpa Chu drank this wine, but why didn't I drink that superior awe-inspiring and heroic demeanor? Second fatty Jin's mouth twitched involuntarily. Everyone present couldn't help but shiver when they saw that Chu Yang was acting so crazily. He was treating everything as a child's play. He had killed an important figure like the city lord of Wei State's Jinyuan City, but he didn't care about it at all. This wasn't lawlessness, this was arrogance, this was a tyrant who viewed Wei country as nothing, like how the heavens viewed everything as dogs. Nothing was in his eyes, which was why he dared to do so. Wei Kingdom's third princess, why don't you run away? Clang. Chu Yang threw the wine bottle on the ground. Everything in the merry pavilion was within his perception. Naturally, he could see every move of the Wei Kingdom's third princess. Wei Kingdom's third princess. Everyone was shocked again. Chu Yang even wanted to kill the third princess of Wei Kingdom. Chu Yang, you really want to fight to the death with the Wei nation? A voice filled with anger resounded throughout the entire merry pavilion. Wei Kingdom. Chu Yang's lips curled. Is this your backing, Wei Kingdom's third princess? So what if it's Wei Kingdom? Even if the Wei emperor dares to kill me, I will still kill him. What consequences? Chu Yang didn't even consider it before, let alone now. Since he had already made a move, there was no need to think about the consequences. It would only weaken his courage. Moreover, Chu Yang even wanted to kill the Five Elements sect's guardian elder and even the presiding elder. He even killed his own people, so why would he not dare to kill an outsider, the Wei Kingdom's third princess? What a joke. When a man is angry, he should be ruthless. When it comes to matters and benevolence, one should be as bold as a bear and as courageous as a wolf. If one was born as a man, one would kill. If one didn't teach one's body to bind one's mother's heart, a man would never be selfless. Even if one's mortal enemy cried, they would still be together. Wei Kingdom's third princess. Chu Yang's cold voice resounded. Although his roar was more imposing, this calmness and coldness was even more frightening. You are guilty, please come and listen to the verdict. Chapter 637. There was dead silence all around. Almost everyone held their breaths at this moment. Some even stopped breathing. The third princess of Wei Kingdom was high and mighty. It was one thing to kill her, but he still wanted to put her on trial. Chu Yang wasn't just killing someone. He even wanted to put the third princess of Wei Kingdom on trial. He wanted to completely humiliate the third princess of Wei Kingdom and trample on the dignity of Wei Kingdom and Emperor Wei. He wanted to trample on the third princess of Wei Kingdom, Emperor Wei, and everything else in Wei Kingdom. What right do you have to put me on trial? You are just a rebel. The third princess of Wei Kingdom's voice was very cold and unusually angry. Chu Yang, you are too presumptuous just because you have some ability. She was still so high and mighty even when she was about to die. Chu Yang could imagine how high and mighty this so-called third princess of Wei Kingdom usually was. When she wanted to kill him, she treated him as if he was a chicken or a dog. She killed him as she wished without any scruples. If you have no scruples, I have no scruples either. Ha ha. Chu Yang laughed loudly. Third princess of Wei Kingdom, I will show you how presumptuous I am today. I will show you how presumptuous I am. As he spoke, he ordered second fatty Jin, go, get Wu Guanqi, the young Marquis of Rong Nation. Isn't he the son of the Marquis of Wei Kingdom? Isn't he a noble of Wei Kingdom? Get him to kneel before me. Bastard, tortoise egg Evildor Chu, can you give me a chance to scold him? According to what you said, my father is also the Marquis of Wei Kingdom, and I am also a noble of Wei Kingdom. Later, won't I have to kneel before that idiot Wu Guanxi? While second Fatty Jin was hesitating, Chu Yang kicked him and sent him flying. Immediately after, he used the power of the formation and a big hand appeared. With a rumble, it grabbed Wu Guanxi from one of the rooms and threw him to the ground. Chu Yang stared and made Wu Guanxi kneel. As for second Fatty Jin, he was caught again and pressed to the ground to kneel. Soon after, Chu Yang swept his gaze across the entire crowd. He intimidated everyone, and said in a cold voice, "Change the city walls to the flag of the great king. I'm the ruler of this Jinyuan city. I'm the emperor of this place. How dare you not kneel before me?" Everyone in the merry pavilion panicked. If they knelt, it would be equivalent to betraying the state of Wei. If they didn't kneel, the consequences would be unpredictable. Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish. Chu Yang's stern voice resounded once more. Once my voice falls, those who do not kneel die. Chu Yang, how dare you? Rumble. The merry pavilion was knocked down along the way. A masked man, followed by dozens of guards, rushed out of the secret room in an instant and appeared in front of Chu Yang. Amongst these people, other than the masked man who was at the 5th level of the soul reincarnation stage, the rest were all below the soul reincarnation stage. In the eastern wilderness, those at the soul reincarnation stage might not be able to do as they pleased, but they could be elders in a sect or important officials in a state. They were absolute martial prowess. Therefore, how could there be so many soul reincarnation stage cultivators? As for the soul reincarnation stage cultivators beside the third princess of the state of Wei, they had all been killed by Chu Yang. The identity of the masked man was obvious, the third princess of the state of Wei. At this moment, she didn't want to escape. She had no way to escape. She was the third princess of the state of Wei, but Chu Yang actually wanted to ascend to the throne in the state of Wei right in front of her. If she were to escape, where would the state of Wei's dignity be? Where would the state of Wei's prestige be? Moreover, she couldn't escape even if she wanted to. The entire Jinyuan city was now under the control of Chu Yang. If she could escape, she would have done so long ago. Chapter 638. Haha. Chu Yang laughed heartily in the face of the Wei Kingdom's third princess's desperate and resolute aura. He started to chant, "Father, don't ask. Why should a man be so fierce? Since ancient times, benevolence has harmed many people. Righteousness has never been true. Don't you see that lions and tigers gain fame for their prey? Who would pity a pitiful elk? The strong always preys on the weak in this world. Even if there's a reason, it's useless." He chanted loudly, causing everyone's heart to tremble. Wasn't the Wei Kingdom's reputation built on killing? Who would pity a weak person? The strong always preys on the weak in this world. Even if there's a reason, it's useless. Chu Yang was lawless in the Merry Pavilion and Jinyuan City tonight because he was strong. If he wasn't strong enough, he would have been hunted down like an elk. Unfortunately, Chu Yang wasn't an elk. He was a ferocious tiger, a powerful dragon, and even a demon king. This was a counterattack by the weak. Why should you be the king and I be the meat on your chopping board? Why should you be the king and I be the lowly one? Why should I be your slave? However, everything he said was futile without strength. Right now, the fist was the reason, justice, the right path, the truth, and everything. Haha. After Chu Yang finished chanting loudly, he said loudly, "Wei Kingdom's third princess, kneel down and beg for mercy now. Otherwise, die. Kill." As soon as the Wei Kingdom's third princess spoke, more than 10 people behind her roared in unison, "Kill." The sound of killing reverberated through the entire Merry Pavilion. It was deafening, and the entire Merry Pavilion was shaking. Everyone was determined to die. Boom. The Wei Kingdom's third princess was the first to move. With a punch, a dragon's roar resounded, and a huge golden dragon pounced out. The dozens of people behind her knew that they were like moths to a flame. They roared in unison and attacked. In an instant, countless attacks bombarded Chu Yang. There were many women among the Wei Kingdom's third princess's guards. Their vital essence formed a rain of needles, covering the sky and covering the earth. Although the needles were small, they were exceptionally heavy and sharp. They were like long spears or divine swords, and their sharp whistling auras soared into the heavens. Ferocious tiger, violent ape, giant elephant, big bell, cauldron lifting, big rock, and even mountains, rivers, and so on. All kinds of martial spirits, all kinds of martial spirit visualization diagrams, relying on Jin Yuan to display Jin Yuan skills, like a violent storm, like an army that was ready to die, fearlessly charging forward. The third princess of the Wei kingdom was the commander, leader, and soul of this fearless army. She was also the spear and arrowhead of this army. The silver vase suddenly broke and the water splashed out. The armored cavalry burst forth with the sound of swords and spears. Rumble. The merry pavilion was trembling and collapsing. A huge cloud of dust soared into the sky. The entire Jinyuan city could feel the tremors. Everyone could clearly feel the tremors coming from the direction of the merry pavilion. At this moment, in the merry pavilion, it was as if an army of thousands of men and horses had launched an attack, and it could not withstand it at all. The Wei nation's third princess could also be said to be a woman who was not inferior to men. She took the lead and formed such a momentum. Like an avalanche and a tsunami, her aura engulfed tens of thousands of li like a tiger, and her voice shook the 9 heavens. Clang, clang, clang. The 9 dragons of the 9 dragons bell appeared and let out dragon roars in unison. It merged with the formation diagram and hung above Chu Yang's head. Streaks of dragon-shaped air currents drooped down, and on the surface of the formation patterns appeared, causing the entire 9 dragons bell to be bright and radiant. It was as if a huge sun was hanging above Chu Yang's head. Clang, 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 clang. The 7 kills sword in Chu Yang's hand also let out sword cries. One sword cry was like 10,000 sword cries, and killing intent filled the air. Chapter 639. At this moment, the entire Jinyuan city began to shake violently as the formation set up in Jinyuan city had been completely activated. The void above Jinyuan city seemed to have collapsed and a huge whirlpool appeared. Boundless heaven and earth Yuan Qi was sucked into the formation of Jinyuan city. The runes of the formation of Jinyuan city were like a river. They were extremely dazzling and there seemed to be light dragons galloping within them. They gathered crazily in the direction of the merry pavilion. The entire Jinyuan city became even brighter. It was extremely dazzling in the dark night. The city was extremely bright. It was countless times brighter than daytime. The dazzling light made it hard for people to open their eyes. Rumble. The attack of the third princess of Wei Kingdom was like an avalanche or a tsunami. It bombarded the huge hand and its momentum came to an abrupt halt. It was as if an avalanche or a tsunami had been stopped by a god. Bang, bang, bang. The rain of needles covered the sky and poured down. When they landed on the huge hand, it was like a basin of water splashing on an iron wall. The ferocious tiger, huge elephant, and the huge golden dragon were like moths darting into a flame. The cauldron, huge rocks, mountains, and rivers were like bubbles that burst upon contact. Everything seemed extremely powerless in front of the huge hand formed by the formation. However, the attacks were definitely not weak. Rumble. The entire merry pavilion collapsed completely. The ground caved in and smoke and dust soared into the sky. The light was dazzling. It was a scene of destruction and doomsday. Everyone in the merry pavilion was like ants and duckweed in a natural disaster. They cried for their parents and tried their best to hide and escape. However, they could not escape from the range of the merry pavilion. The formation of the merry pavilion had been completely activated and trapped the entire area. Third princess of Wei Kingdom, your prestige is over. It's my turn to make a move. Chu Yang's voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. It sounded like the voice of a devil. Everyone on the side of the third Duke of Wei Kingdom could not help but tremble in fear. Boom! The huge hand formed by the formation slammed down on them. The third princess of Wei Kingdom immediately released her own formation to block it. Her followers surrounded her tightly and tried their best to reduce the range of the domain to the minimum. At the same time, they poured countless vital essence into her body. Bang! The moment the big hand came into contact with the Wei Kingdom's third princess's domain, there was a loud bang as if the earth was about to sink. Then, with a buzzing sound, huge ripples appeared on the domain. Then, it cracked open, and cracking sounds rang out continuously. Everyone in the domain was severely injured. They all let out muffled groans and spat out blood arrows. In an instant, their auras were weakened to the extreme. The third princess of Wei suffered the greatest impact. Her body seemed to be on the verge of breaking apart. The mask on her face directly burst open, revealing a devastatingly beautiful face that could cause the downfall of countries. It was enough to cause the flowers to lose their color, and the world to lose its color. Even the incomparably dazzling light at this moment dimmed. They blocked the first attack, but to no avail. Even the peerless beauty of the third princess of the Wei Kingdom was useless. The huge hand formed by the array formation slammed down once again. Seeing that she was about to be slapped to death by the huge hand and that her entourage had become a burden, the Wei Kingdom's third princess decisively shrank her domain violently until it was so small that it only protected herself. The giant hand slammed down, and she was directly nailed into the ground like a steel nail. All of her followers were slapped to death. The battle between heaven and earth was so tragic that it shocked the Yin court. She killed a person every 3 steps. Her mouth stopped, but her hands didn't stop. Blood flowed like waves, and corpses pillowed like mountains. After the battle, the warrior slept on the enemy's corpse. She killed people in her dreams, and her smile was dazzling. Chu Yang didn't have any trace of mercy. These people were just courting death. As for the scene of the Wei Kingdom's third princess abandoning her followers, he was even more disdainful. At the juncture of life and death, the most important thing was to see a person's nature. His murderous intent grew stronger, and his voice was unusually cold. Third princess of the Wei Kingdom, if I ask you to kneel, you have to kneel. Can you resist? The huge hand formed by the array formation grabbed the Wei Kingdom's third princess from the ground and squeezed hard, causing her domain to explode. Blood flowed out of her 7 orifices, and she was ruthlessly slammed to the ground. Kneel. The Wei Kingdom's third princess had just staggered to her feet, but soon with a bang, she was forced to kneel down by Chu Yang. She couldn't resist and couldn't resist. She knelt on the ground, as if she was kowtowing to those followers that she had abandoned. Chapter 640. Chu Yang, you dare to humiliate me like this. My father will not let you off. The Wei Kingdom will not let you off either. If you dare to kill me, you will definitely die even if you escape to the ends of the earth or the 9 heavens and 10 lands. You will also have your entire clan exterminated. The third princess of the Wei Kingdom was trembling and her voice was trembling. However, she still dared to threaten Chu Yang at this moment. Exterminate her entire clan. Chu Yang could not help but feel a surge of anger in his heart. She was about to die, yet she still dared to show off her nobility and power in front of him. She did not know what was good for her and did not know what was good for her. Those who kill will be killed by others. When you sent people to assassinate me and wanted to take my life, you should have expected that I would come and take your head today. Me. Chu Yang snorted and said contemptuously, the third princess of the Wei Kingdom, the noble and powerful, you are actually afraid in the face of death. He sneered, so what if you are the emperor of the Wei Kingdom? Where is the Wei Kingdom? I don't mind telling you that if the emperor of the Wei Kingdom dares to send people to kill me, I will kill them without hesitation. If the Wei Kingdom dares to make an enemy out of me, I will exterminate it. Tonight's incident in Jinyuan City will be played out in the capital of the Wei Kingdom. If the emperor of the Wei Kingdom wants to kill me, I will kill the emperor of the Wei Kingdom. If the Wei Kingdom wants to exterminate me, I will exterminate the Wei Kingdom. What a domineering declaration. At this moment, everyone could only feel the thunderous roar in their ears. They were so shocked that their hearts almost jumped out of their mouths. It was not impossible for a person to exterminate a kingdom. A martial arts expert could raise his hand and exterminate a kingdom was as easy as raising his hand. Although Chu Yang's strength was not high enough, he was an extremely terrifying demon. His cultivation and comprehension of martial arts were astonishing. It was only a matter of time before he became an unparalleled expert. Even if he was not strong enough now, he was still an array master, a 4th-grade array master. How many 4th-grade array masters could there be in the eastern wilderness? There were not many people like this. And such people were extremely terrifying. Chu Yang was able to control the great formation of Jinyuan City and kill all his enemies tonight. So, it was possible that he could enter the capital city of Wei Kingdom the next day, control the formation there, kill the Emperor of Wei, and exterminate the Wei state. This was definitely not a lie, and definitely not a lie. The Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess was even more terrified because she knew that this could really happen. Chu Yang was too lazy to pay attention to a dead person like her. He coldly said to the surrounding people, "Why are you still not kneeling? Are you waiting for my butcher's knife?" His voice wasn't very loud, but when it fell into the ears of everyone present, it caused a rumble in their minds. Kneel and live, don't kneel and die. How to choose? If he died, would the Wei Kingdom be able to redress his grievances and kill this evil person? Bang bang bang. It was unknown who was the first to kneel down. Then, one by one, everyone knelt down. No one dared to stand. Why is there no sound? Are you all mutes? May the Emperor live for 10,000 years. Haha. Chu Yang was finally satisfied. He had finally returned to being the Emperor after so much difficulty. It felt pretty good. He laughed out loud and then said to the 3rd princess of Wei, "Not everyone can be the Emperor. Your so-called Emperor Wei might not be qualified to be the Emperor. If he is qualified, then I am qualified as well." Pa. The Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess didn't need to be afraid anymore. She also couldn't hear Chu Yang's words anymore because she was dead. Chu Yang directly slapped her to death. Then, he swaggered off. Accompanied by his chanting, his figure also slowly disappeared. Reputation is like dung. Those who disdain the benevolent will ridicule. Wearing a sharp iron sword, he will kill when he is angry. Cutting his share to go with wine, he will frighten ghosts and gods with laughter. Killing enemies from 1,000 miles away, he is willing to spend 10 stars. Finally, Chu Yang's figure completely disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. He disappeared into the vast night sky. Killing enemies from 1,000 miles away, he is willing to spend 10 stars. According to this, Chu Yang should be looking for his next enemy. Chapter 641. He was alive. He was finally alive. As soon as Chu Yang left, many people in the merry pavilion couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. They no longer trembled with fear. They felt as if they had survived the natural disaster, and the end of the world had passed. Therefore, in the ruins, some people began to weep. Second Fatty Jin looked at the mess in front of him. The originally extravagant merry pavilion had been completely turned into ruins. The fat on his body trembled. This was the real Chu Yang, the great monster Chu Feiren. Once he made a move, he was like a fierce tiger that had leaped out of its mouth. The sky changed color and the wind and clouds stirred. For the first time, he rejoiced that he had told the truth when he brought Chu Yang to the merry pavilion. If he had chosen to completely stand against Chu Yang and stabbed Chu Yang in the back, he probably wouldn't have been able to kill Chu Yang. If he hadn't, the Marquis' residence would have become like the merry pavilion and he would have become the 3rd princess of the Wei Kingdom. Second Fatty Jin looked at the corpse of the 3rd princess of the Wei Kingdom. After she died, there was still a trace of shock and fear on her beautiful face. It was easy to imagine how terrified and frightened she was when she was alive. Perhaps she really thought that Chu Yang didn't dare to kill her or couldn't bear to kill her. She was so beautiful, even more beautiful than the city lord of Jinyuan City, misty. Which man could bear to kill her? There was no problem for her to be a bedwarmer, but she still died. Second Fatty Jin could only say that she thought too highly of herself and looked down on Chu Yang too much. Was Chu Yang an ordinary person? Obviously not. Everything in front of him was the best proof. The news in the merry pavilion spread quickly throughout the entire Jinyuan City. That night, the Jinyuan City was completely sleepless. In the Sun family of Jinyuan City, Sun Yonggan trembled when he heard that Chu Yang had destroyed the Merry Pavilion and killed the city lord of Jinyuan City and the third princess of the Wei Kingdom. He hurriedly ran to Sun Shusha to beg for help. He was so scared that his courage almost broke. Sun Tzu did not pay any attention to Sun Yonggan. When he heard all this, he was also extremely shocked. However, he was secretly happy for Chu Yang. Chu Yang had saved him in the midst of danger, earning his trust. Chu Yang had a clear distinction between love and hate. He admired Chu Yang even more. Sun Tzu not only admired him, but also envied him. A man should be like this. However, what he didn't expect was that after these things happened, because he had always been grateful to Chu Yang and wanted to be on good terms with Chu Yang, and because of Sun Yonggan, the family suddenly valued him greatly. Even the geniuses in the family didn't dare to be disrespectful to him. Who knew? Who knew when Chu Yang would think of Sun Zisha, but what they were more worried about was that Chu Yang would think of Sun Yonggan, that idiot, who actually treated his benefactor as an enemy. Such an incident would usually leave a deep impression on an ordinary person who was ungrateful. If Chu Yang remembered it one day, the Sun family would probably be in great trouble. Therefore, hugging Sun Tzu was a good choice. The entire Jinyuan city was in an uproar. Everyone was talking about the incident tonight. Everyone was talking about Chu Yang. Everything that Chu Yang had done was pointed out one by one. After some people understood the general situation, some people came over to explain it. They described it vividly as if they were telling a story. At this time, it was still night. However, it was late at night. In the western part of Jinyuan City, there was a restaurant called Huang Xiaoa Restaurant, which was not very far from the Merry Pavilion. Huang Xiaoa Restaurant was just a small restaurant. Usually, the people who came here were ordinary people. There were rarely any distinguished guests. Chapter 642. In the underground secret room of the restaurant, a young man was tied to a metal pillar. His blood-red eyes were staring angrily at the triangular-eyed middle-aged man who was pacing back and forth anxiously. The young man's blood-red eyes were like two blood-red mouths. He couldn't wait to eat the triangular-eyed middle-aged man alive. With a creak, the door to the secret room opened. The skinny middle-aged man walked in. The triangular-eyed middle-aged man immediately asked anxiously, "How is it? Is the news we heard earlier true?" "True." The skinny middle-aged man's voice was filled with shock. "This Chu Yang is really shocking. He stole the control of Jinyuan City's great array and slaughtered the city lord and the third princess of Wei Kingdom. He even said that if the emperor of Wei wanted to kill him, everything that happened in Jinyuan City tonight would happen in the Wei Kingdom's capital. Then where did this Chu Yang go? Who knows? Not good." The triangular-eyed middle-aged man suddenly exclaimed. He might have gone to look for the Gold Rock Saint. The Gold Rock Saint and the third princess of Wei Kingdom worked together to kill Chu Yang. Now that the third princess of Wei Kingdom is dead, the next target should be the Gold Rock Saint. The young man who was tied to the metal pillar couldn't help but be delighted. He immediately laughed out loud. "Ha ha, the heavens are clear and there will be justice. All of you bastards must die, pa." The young man was slapped and warned, "Yang Ziming, if you know what's good for you, you better hand over the assassin's visualization diagram immediately. I can let you die a quick death. Go to the surface and gather with the old and young of the Yang family village. Otherwise, I will make you regret being born. Bastard, don't even think about it. Even if I beg for death, you can forget about getting your way." The young man's eyes were about to burst. The anger in his heart seemed to want to burn everything from his chest. Even if he was in the underworld, he wouldn't be able to see the old and young of the Yang family village. It was too tragic. It was too tragic. These bastards actually killed people to take their souls. They were worse than pigs and dogs. He would never forget the face of the Gold Rock Holy Sun. He would never forget the satisfied smile on the face of the Gold Rock Holy Sun after he used the black gourd to collect the souls of the Yang family village villagers. That satisfied smile was inhumane. Every time Yang Ziming thought of that satisfied smile, he would go mad with hatred. He could even go mad at that moment. The Yang family village had been wiped out, and the only reason why he was still alive was because of his assassin martial spirit. You're courting death. The skinny monk-like young man coldly stared at the young man and sneered, when we have time, you will know what it means to be better off dead. Stop wasting time with a dead man. The triangular-shaped middle-aged man scolded, spread the news immediately. You should know that the Gold Rock Holy Sun is now with the 7 Dark Generals. What are you worried about? The skinny monk-like middle-aged man sneered, even if Chu Yang found the Gold Rock Holy Sun and discovered the relationship between the Soul Devourer clan and our 1000 Demon sect, what can he do? He will only be sending himself to his death. You underestimate that Chu Yang. The triangular-eyed middle-aged man was a little uneasy. It's not that I underestimate that Chu Yang, but you are worrying too much. The skinny monk-like middle-aged man sneered, that Chu Yang only relied on the formation to kill the Gold Rock Holy Sun and the Wei nation's 3rd princess. Without the formation, he is nothing. With his current cultivation, how can he be a match for the Gold Rock Holy Sun and the 7 Dark Generals without the formation? That's true. The triangular-eyed middle-aged man had just calmed down when he suddenly shouted, not good, that Chu Yang wants to find the Gold Rock Holy Sun. He might have to go through us. We can't stay here any longer. We have to leave immediately. Zhu Yuanji, are you crazy? You're so paranoid. Don't tell me that you've been scared out of your wits by this Chu Yang. The skinny monk-like middle-aged man sneered, how does that Chu Yang know about our relationship with the Gold Rock Holy Sun? He knows that our 1000 Demon sect has so many strongholds. How many of them does he know? Does he have to look for us? What a joke. What a joke. The triangular-eyed middle-aged man was ridiculed again and again. He couldn't help but become angry. Li Jianmu, do you know that the Gold Rock Holy Sun is the Merry Pavilion's Lady Yi? The skinny monk-like middle-aged man, who was this so-called Li Jianmu, was suddenly startled. You don't know, right? The triangular-eyed middle-aged man, Zhu Yuanji, sneered, you don't know, but Chu Yang knows. Don't tell me you think that there are so many secrets in this world for someone like him. Li Jianmu was still a little unconvinced. Then he might not come to a small place like ours. It's better for us to be careful. Zhu Yuanji became even more uneasy. We are too close to the Merry Pavilion. If Chu Yang can't find any clues, he might come looking for us. When Zhu Yuanji said this, Li Jianmu wasn't just frightened. His heart seemed to have skipped a few beats. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the secret room's door. Chapter 643. Just as Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu were worried that Chu Yang would come knocking on their door, a knock suddenly sounded from outside the secret chamber. The two of them were frightened to death. It was as if Chu Yang, the person who killed the city lord of Jinyuan City and the 3rd princess of Wei Kingdom, had appeared in front of them. After the two of them regained their composure, their hearts and minds shook violently. Very few people knew about this secret chamber. There were only 3 to 5 people. Excluding Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu, there was only one person in Jinyuan City who knew about this secret chamber. Could it be Dao Bie? The two of them looked at each other and had the same thought. At the same time, they growled like wild beasts in danger and shouted, "Who is it? I'm here to deliver a package." Package? What's this? Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu were dumbfounded. They didn't understand what this package meant at all. Instantly, their heartstrings tightened. If it was the Dao Bie they knew, it would be fine. However, if it was an enemy, then they would be in big trouble. Package? What's a package? The voice outside the secret chamber sounded again. The two of you are joking around. Since you don't understand what a package is, it's naturally a quick delivery. I've already delivered the things you ordered in this shop according to the address. Please sign for it. Sign for it. Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu were dumbfounded again. Package? Sign for it. Am I crazy? Or is the person outside sick? If the person outside wasn't sick, then they were probably sick. Moreover, they were very sick. They might even die of illness soon. What exactly did you send? Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu's vital essence surged. The former used his vital essence to form a nether snake. Due to the secret chamber, The snake was only 10 feet long. However, it was filled with a ghostly aura and was surrounded by ghostly fog. The snake's eyes were blood red. The latter used his vital essence to form a calf-sized Cerberus. The 3 heads were extremely ferocious and had crisscrossing fangs. It was ready to launch a fatal attack. The 2 of them could unleash their full power at any time and kill their opponent. Yang Ziming, who was tied to the iron pillar, saw the demonic aura around the 2 of them. Their cultivation at the 5th or 6th tier of the ascending soul realm had completely erupted. Although he was worried about the people outside the secret chamber, he couldn't even take care of himself. The shockwaves from Zhu Yuanji and Yang Zhenlin's attacks hit him, and he couldn't help but let out a muffled groan as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. At the same time, his spirit was also greatly suppressed by Zhu Yuanji and Yang Zhenlin. If he wasn't tied to the iron pillar, he would have to kneel down to his 2 enemies no matter how much resentment he had. "I'm here to die." The voice outside the secret chamber was getting a little impatient. "Please sign for it. If you 2 dilly-dallying like the 2 of you, how long will it take for me to deliver this package?" In the secret chamber, Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu were stunned again. Was he sending himself to his death or sending himself to shit? Which one of them would be tired of living and come here to die? If he was sending himself to shit, could he say that he was sending himself to his death? If he was elegant, he could say that he was sending night incense. However, who would send his shit to the secret chamber? Li Jianmu was completely enraged, and he roared, "Who is it? How dare you make fun of me, your grandpa Li?" Boom! He suddenly exploded, and the door seemed to be about to be torn down by him. Suddenly, the person outside the secret chamber fell to the ground with a plop. Then, he scrambled into the secret chamber. At this time, Zhu Yuanji also saw this person. There was a 5-colored little beast on his shoulder. Yang Ziming also saw this person, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. The smile on his face rippled, and he was all smiles. Chu Yang. Zhu Yuanji's whole body shook, and he was extremely frightened. It was as if he was facing a huge man-eating monster. He was so frightened that he directly fell to the ground. How could he not recognize this person? Chu Yang's battle in the Merry Pavilion was so stunning. After that, who in Jinyuan City didn't pay attention to him? Who didn't have a portrait of Chu Yang in their hands? Chapter 644. Whether it was Zhu Yuanji or Li Jianlin, when they saw Chu Yang, it was as if they had seen an evil ghost. It was as if thousands of evil ghosts had returned to claim their lives. The 2 of them trembled, and their lips instantly turned blue and purple. "Are the 2 of you very cold?" When Chu Yang saw the frightened expressions of the 2, his expression became even more cheerful. The effect of him killing the chicken to warn the monkey could be proven to be quite good. Especially this Grandpa Li. Just now, your actions of rolling and crawling were very standard. In the future, I seem to have a template for rolling and crawling. Thank you very much. At this moment, in the eyes of Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianlin, Chu Yang's smile was like a demon smiling at them. If they were demons, then Chu Yang was a demon among demons. This is Chu Yang, the Chu Yang who wants to kill that bastard Gold Rock Holy Sun. On the iron pillar, Yang Ziming's blood-red eyes also fell on Chu Yang's body. He felt that it should be. There shouldn't be anyone else who could make these 2 bastards, Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianlin, so afraid. The 2 of you, don't be so afraid. I don't eat people. I'm just a delivery man. Chu Yang smiled and said, "I'm here to send you to your deaths. Please sign for it." Send you to your death. Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianlin naturally knew that a great disaster was imminent. Naturally, it wasn't Chu Yang in front of them who came to send them to their deaths, but this demon in front of them who wanted to send them to their deaths. Sign for it, bastard. You want to kill us, but you still want to force us to agree. You're too much. Chu Tianjiao, we don't know you. We have no enmity with you in the past. Did you send it to the wrong place? Zhu Yuanji still had a faint hope in his heart. He thought that Chu Yang didn't necessarily know that this was a small stronghold of the Thousand Devil Sect, and he didn't necessarily know that they were from the Thousand Devil Sect. It can't be wrong. Huang Xiao restaurant, That person told us very clearly. Chu Yang had already heard their conversation outside the secret room. How could he let them go? So he continued to smile and said, "The two of you, please sign for it." Boom. As Chu Yang's smile blossomed on his face, Li Jianlin made his move. Soul Ascension Transformation. His entire body merged with the nether serpent formed from true essence. He spat out a ghostly fog that dyed the entire chamber black. Suddenly, a ghostly aura filled the air, blurring one's vision. Then, he was like a nether serpent, silently biting towards Chu Yang. In this pounce and bite, there was also a spiritual attack. Chu Yang was only at the first tier of the ascending soul realm, so in his opinion, his spiritual power should be Chu Yang's weakness and flaw. Raw. At the same time, Zhu Yuanji completely exploded. Between life and death, he didn't hold back the slightest bit of his strength. Just like Li Jianlin, he also used the ascending soul transformation and fused with the Cerberus formed from his true essence. With a bang, black flames burst out all around his body. The originally calf-sized Cerberus body suddenly expanded in size and shot towards Chu Yang. Yang Ziming already couldn't see the situation in the secret room clearly, but Li Jianlin and Zhu Yuanji's violent outbursts shocked him, and even more so, made him worried. Could this Chu Yang resist? When Chu Yang came in, Yang Ziming's eyes were fixed on Chu Yang, and with great difficulty, he finally confirmed Chu Yang's cultivation, first tier of the ascending soul realm. However, whether it was Li Jianlin, this bastard, or Zhu Yuanji, this bastard, they were at least at the 5th tier of the ascending soul realm. How could this legendary Chu Yang be a match for them? Yang Ziming couldn't understand. And at this time, in the dense ghostly fog, Chu Yang's smiling voice rang out. "Thank you for signing." At this time, this Chu Yang was actually still teasing and thanking him. "But did you win? You didn't even make a move, and you dared to do this." Yang Ziming was really a little suspicious now. Did this Chu Yang lose his mind? Chapter 645. Dang, dang. The melodious sound of the bell was accompanied by a dragon's roar. When it resounded through the entire secret room, the air and Jin Yuan in the secret room immediately stopped. It was as if the two sea beasts that were causing trouble in the sea had been completely suppressed. Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianlin were covered by a light barrier as they knelt in front of Chu Yang. Above the light barrier, the 9 dragons' bell floated, forming the domain. When the ghost fog dispersed, there wasn't a trace of it left. The hellish serpent and Cerberus also disappeared without a trace. Yang Ziming's bloody eyes saw that not only were Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianlin kneeling, but there were also many cracks on their bodies, with blood flowing out. The two beasts were like 2 eggs that had knocked into a rock. The reason why they didn't completely explode was that the rock had shown them mercy. A soul reincarnation realm artifact. So he was relying on external object. Yang Ziming saw the 9 dragons' bell and felt envious. If he had such a soul reincarnation realm artifact, the people of the Yang village wouldn't have died so miserably, and even their souls wouldn't have been taken away. No, even with such a soul reincarnation realm artifact, I'm definitely not a match for the Gold Rock Holy Sun and those beasts from the Thousand Devil sect. He quickly rejected this idea. "Young master, I see that you seem to be in a hurry to go home. I'm the 5 Elements courier number 007. If you're in a hurry to go home, I can send you home by mail. After all, I'm a courier. Not only do I deliver packages, but I also send packages. What do you think?" When he heard the voice, Yang Ziming saw Chu Yang looking at him with a smile. He had completely forgotten about the 2 beasts, Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianlin. He couldn't help but look at Chu Yang more carefully. There was no doubt that he was in the first layer of the ascending soul realm. "You're Chu Yang?" Chu Yang looked at the young man's bloody eyes and saw the depths of a sea of blood. There was endless rage, grievance, unwillingness, despair, and so on. "That's right, I'm Chu Yang. You want to kill that bastard Gold Rock Holy Sun and those bastards from the Thousand Devil sect?" Yang Ziming scanned Chu Yang from head to toe with his blood-red eyes. After that, the hope in his eyes disappeared. To be more precise, he was disappointed. He originally thought that Chu Yang would be able to kill those bastards. However, why should he force Chu Yang? Immediately, he spoke again. Brother Chu, my words may be a little harsh, but although you have a bejeweled weapon, you shouldn't be a match for those beasts, right? Chu Yang observed the various changes in Yang Ziming's expression. He saw the complicated changes in Yang Ziming's expression from hope to disappointment and so on. He knew that Yang Ziming had underestimated him, but he didn't take it to heart. After all, a normal person would have such a reaction. After all, he was only in the first layer of the ascending soul tier, and his realm was his shortcoming. Furthermore, the other party was clearly warning him out of goodwill. Chu Yang didn't want to be entangled with the other party on this issue. He cupped his fist and said, "This brother, we are now talking about the mailing service. Do you need me to send you home? If you do, the postal fee will be your assassin martial soul." Outside the secret chamber, Chu Yang was tempted when he heard about the assassin martial soul. The Wei Kingdom's third princess was in the 5th layer of the soul wheel realm. This gold rock saint's cultivation could only be higher. According to the division of the 5 elements sects saint and divine son, only those above the soul wheel realm could become a saint. Only those above the 5th layer of the soul wheel realm could become a divine son. In other words, with the strength of the gold rock saint, it could be said that he was a gold rock divine son. With such strength, without a formation, it would be very difficult for Chu Yang to kill him. There was only one move, the exceptional brick. Chu Yang used the 5 elements sect's formation to suddenly appear behind the 5 elements divine son. He had once used the exceptional brick to knock down the 5 elements divine son. Just like how he could knock down the 5 elements divine son, he could naturally knock down the gold rock saint as well. Although this 5 elements divine son was fake, his strength definitely wouldn't be lower than the gold rock saint. The difference was that the 5 elements formation had to use his path to heaven and his somersault cloud to replace it. Another difference was that the current Chu Yang was no longer the Chu Yang of the past. Back then, he was only in the 7th layer of the spirit soul realm. But now, he had completed the 3rd transformation of the spirit soul and advanced to the 1st layer of the ascending soul realm. He had refined his spirit chi and his strength had increased greatly. Comparing the two, Chu Yang should have no problem knocking down the gold rock saint with the exceptional brick. If he could obtain an assassin martial spirit, his assassination would be even more perfect, and his power would be even greater. Chapter 646. YA. When Xiao Guori heard that Chu Yang was asking for the assassin's martial soul, it immediately cried out. Basically, it was saying, how can you do this to save someone? How can you force someone to give you something so valuable? Chu Yang stared at Xiao Guori and said, I told you to speak. Watch from the side. Don't speak. Immediately, Xiaowu became a good teacher and said, Xiao Guori, if someone saved your life, would you be so grateful that you wouldn't be able to repay them? Xiao Guori nodded. Little Five, who was good at teaching others, said, if you give me your assassin martial soul in return, won't you feel better? Won't you feel like you don't owe me anything? Xiao Guori didn't say anything. So you can explain it this way. It was already a little confused. However, Xiaowu was cursing Chu Yang in his heart. Repay kindness? What the hell is this? How dare you say that I, Master Monkey, am a good-for-nothing? You are the good-for-nothing in this world. Yang Ziming was slightly stunned. He still didn't understand Chu Yang's words, but he understood the general meaning. If Chu Yang saved him, he would give Chu Yang the assassin's martial soul. I can give it to you. He didn't hesitate at all. As long as he could kill the Gold Rock Holy Sun, he wouldn't hesitate to give up his life. So what if it was his martial soul? Chu Yang wanted to kill the Gold Rock Holy Sun. How could he not give it to Chu Yang? Although he didn't think highly of Chu Yang, he felt that Chu Yang wasn't strong enough. He felt that he should give it to Chu Yang so that he could increase Chu Yang's strength. Yang Ziming was very straightforward. Chu Yang was a little embarrassed. He waved his 7 kills sword and cut off Yang Ziming's restraint. Then, Yang Ziming displayed his assassin's martial soul in front of Chu Yang. When Chu Yang sensed the assassin's martial soul, he instantly felt that the whole world had fallen into darkness. It was pitch black. There wasn't a trace of light or sound. Assassins walked in the darkness and belonged to the darkness. With such comprehension, Chu Yang soon saw the figure that had merged with the darkness in the darkness. Boom! At this moment, the darkness true essence within Chu Yang's body surged and suddenly erupted. The entire chamber suddenly turned pitch black, so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Fortunately, in the secret room, there were torches on the walls and an oil lamp on the table in the middle. However, at this moment, the light was extremely weak and could not illuminate Chu Yang's figure. The light only fell on Yang Ziming's extremely shocked face. His pair of bloody eyes were extremely shocked. At this moment, Chu Yang was clearly in front of him, but he couldn't sense him at all. He only sensed Li Jianlin and Zhu Yuanji, these two bastards. He comprehended my assassin martial soul so quickly. Then, he only heard Chu Yang muttering to himself, "Assassins are everywhere. They will always appear in unexpected places and at unexpected times. They can even kill you. You won't even know how you died. Assassins are like ghosts, silent and invisible." Following Chu Yang's words in the darkness, Yang Ziming realized that the entire secret room had returned to its original state. However, he still couldn't see Chu Yang's figure. Chu Yang seemed to have become invisible. His true and false true essence played a crucial role. Assassins don't live for money. They don't live for personal gain. They walk in the darkness and are covered in blood. If it's only for these, they can only be cold-blooded killers. Chu Yang's figure couldn't be seen, only his voice could be heard. Yang Ziming's heart trembled once again. In a trance, he heard Chu Yang, his teacher, explain the assassin martial soul to him. He did it on purpose. Yang Ziming immediately understood at this moment. At the same time, he suddenly realized that the assassin martial soul in his hands was like a pearl covered in dust. It had always been abandoned and not valued. He had never fully understood the extraordinariness of his martial soul. At this moment, his martial soul shone with its dazzling brilliance. Entering the Wolf Kingdom, the ambition is beyond life and death, bravery. If I don't succeed, I will die for a righteous cause. A woman pleases herself, a man dies for his bosom friend, a strong man surrenders, that is loyalty. At the very least, assassins were fearless. They had the courage to face everything head-on. They were willing to sacrifice themselves for a righteous cause. The wind rustles, the water turns cold, the hero leaves, never to return. Following Chu Yang's chant, his figure slowly appeared in front of Yang Ziming. While Yang Ziming was inexplicably shocked, Chu Yang's consciousness saw the ancient assassin's peerless attack from the assassin martial soul. This attack was the supreme assassin's Tao. It was a one-hit kill. It was infused with all of the essence, energy, and spirit. It was like a white rainbow piercing the sun, blood splashing 5-step. Whoosh! In Chu Yang's consciousness, he saw an assassin silently stabbing out with his sword. This sword didn't make any sound, nor did it fluctuate. Even the aura disappeared. The assassin completely disappeared. It was as if he had broken through the void and ascended into the heavens. It was as if he had entered a world of darkness. This sword was indescribably fast, strange, and peerless. This was an extreme sword strike, one that went all out. It was fearless and indomitable, unstoppable. Space, time, and all other things seemed to be retreating, and even helping. Chapter 647. Kai Kai. Witness. Yang Ziming saw Chu Yang's eyes suddenly open. It was as if two supreme assassins had appeared in each of his eyes, and each of them struck out with a peerless sword. His gaze bore all of this and pierced through the walls of the secret chamber. It was as if a sword had pierced through 2 pieces of tofu. 2 streams of blood flowed out from the corners of Chu Yang's eyes. In the previous witness, Chu Yang's eyes were like 2 peerless assassins who had launched a peerless attack without any regard for their lives. They had condensed his true yuan, essence, spirit, martial spirit, soul, and soul into one and shot it out. His eyes bore all of this and were overloaded. His mind was suddenly exhausted to the extreme, and he couldn't help but close his eyes. My assassin martial spirit is actually so powerful. Yang Ziming looked at all of this and his hands trembled in excitement. If this was the case, wouldn't the blood feud between him and the Yang clan be just around the corner? He looked at Chu Yang in front of him again, and all of his excitement disappeared. Is he really relying on external objects? Ridiculous. I really have eyes but failed to see. I underestimated the heroes of the world. In just a short moment, Chu Yang was able to see through his assassin martial spirit. He was able to dig out all the mysteries within it. What kind of perception was this? How shocking was this perception? It wasn't the Soul Wheel Realm artifact that was powerful, but the Soul Wheel Realm artifact was incomparably powerful in his hand. Yang Ziming realized that he had completely reversed the two of them. After that, he thought of Chu Yang's movement technique as a formation master, and mocked himself in his heart. He felt that he was too short-sighted. The Chu Yang in front of him had a very low cultivation level, only a few levels higher than him. However, he was incomparably powerful. He was so powerful that he could use formations and Soul Wheel Realm artifacts to kill opponents who were several times stronger than him. If he was me, maybe it wouldn't be as simple as me killing a few people. My parents, brothers, and sisters wouldn't die, and the people of the Yang clan wouldn't die either. Am I useless, or is this Chu Yang in front of me too outrageous? Yang Ziming couldn't help but doubt himself. His heart was in a mess as he thought to himself, it's not impossible for him to kill that bastard Gold Rock Holy Child. Not to mention his great kindness, he also taught me so much, allowing me to realize how extraordinary my martial spirit is. I have to thank him for this. He directly knelt down in front of Chu Yang. Without saying a word, he began to kowtow. What do you do? Chu Yang opened his eyes tiredly, and his tone was full of fatigue. Yah. Xiao Guari was also barking on his shoulder. It seemed to be saying that the favor of saving his life and the assassin martial soul cancelled each other out. Why are you kneeling? Why are you kowtowing? The assassin martial soul in my body is like a bright pearl covered in dust. I, Yang Ziming, have been guarding a mountain of treasures without realizing it. Today, I am fortunate to have met young Master Chu, who enlightened me and gave me some pointers. This time, I, Yang Ziming, am unable to repay your kindness. Please accept my kowtows. Chu Yang forced a smile in his tiredness. If we are to say thank you, I should be the one thanking you. He cupped his fists in front of Yang Ziming. Today, after seeing Brother Yang's assassin martial soul, this Chu has comprehended the ancient Tao of the assassin. This is a heaven-defying blessing, and I have taken away Brother Yang's good fortune. I am very sorry. No. Yang Ziming shook his head. Young Master Chu, if it weren't for you, even if I had 100 or 1,000 years of experience, I wouldn't be able to understand the mysteries of this assassin martial soul. I would only be envious of others. Today, it was young Master Chu who enlightened me. You are my guide, please don't make me feel wronged. Chu Yang smiled. We don't need to be like this. If you feel indebted to me, and I stole the secrets of your martial soul, then at most we don't owe each other anything. After a pause, he looked at Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu. The two of you, I am a little tired now, and my mood will be very bad soon. Therefore, the two of you don't have many opportunities. When I ask you questions, you better cherish them. Where is the Gold Rock Holy Sun? Without waiting for Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu to speak, Yang Ziming knelt down in front of Chu Yang. Young Master Chu, I know where the Gold Rock Holy Sun is. These two people have a blood feud with me. Can you hand them over to me? When Zhu Yuanji and Li Jianmu talked, they never avoided Yang Ziming. How could Yang Ziming not know the whereabouts of the Gold Rock Holy Sun? Seeing Yang Ziming gnashing his teeth, Chu Yang could only nod. Before leaving, he said, Brother Yang, you are still alive, and you are not alive to be a beast, neither human nor ghost. You still have many things to do. Chapter 648. After an unknown amount of time, Chu Yang closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. Suddenly, he felt someone close to him. When he opened his eyes, he saw a person covered in blood. His entire body was covered in blood, and even his face was covered in blood. It was almost impossible to see his original appearance. This person looked as if he had just been fished out of a pool of blood. Seeing Yang Ziming in such a state, Chu Yang did not ask much. His parents, brothers and sisters, his relatives and friends in the village, all the familiar faces had been massacred. If it were Chu Yang himself, he would probably be even more inhuman than Yang Ziming. "Did you get the information from the interrogation?" Chu Yang asked. When he was adjusting his breathing, he left a trace of his consciousness outside and faintly heard Yang Ziming's interrogation. Yang Ziming wasn't just venting his hatred. He naturally wanted to know the real reason why the Thousand Devil sect and the Soul Devourer clan were so crazy. Bang! Yang Ziming didn't ask any questions. He knelt in front of Chu Yang and repeatedly kowtowed. "Ari." Chu Yang didn't stop him and only let out a long sigh. "Thank you, young Master Chu." After a while, when Yang Ziming calmed down slightly, Chu Yang spoke again. "You don't need to do this. Tell me what you got from the interrogation." "Yes, young Master Chu." Yang Ziming was very respectful. He then frowned and said, "However, what I got from the interrogation is more or less what I know. Tell me in detail." In an instant, Yang Ziming's hatred surged again. With a sinister expression, he gritted his teeth and said, "They slaughtered innocent people in order to take their souls. They used the tempering gourd to grind away the resentment and hostility of the souls, turning them into the purest soul power. Then, they could absorb and improve their martial spirit. Killing people to take their souls, tempering soul power, and improving martial spirit." Chu Yang had originally expected such a possibility, but when it was confirmed, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. After that, he roughly understood how the Thousand Demons sect and the Soul Devourer clan cooperated. The Thousand Demons sect killed people to obtain souls, while the Soul Devourer clan refined souls into soul power. The two divided the work and finally divided the soul power, slaughtering the innocent and defenseless in order to obtain their souls and refine their soul energy. This was truly heartless and shocking. According to those two beasts, Yang Ziming said, "This time, the Soul Devourer clan took the initiative to suggest this. It seems like they are preparing for the Emperor Island. Most of the soul power obtained is prepared for the son of the Soul Devourer clan's clan leader, Fang Wulong. This is so that he can increase his strength in the shortest time possible and enter the Emperor Island." Emperor Island. Chu Yang heard this name again. He had more or less understood the Emperor Island now. The inheritance of the Great Emperor in the Eastern Wilderness was located, and the Great Emperor in the Eastern Wilderness was closely related to the Five Elements sect. This time, the Emperor Island could only be entered by those below the Soul Reincarnation realm. This meant that Fang Wulong, the son of the Soul Devourer clan's clan leader, was at most in the Ascending Soul realm. Is there anything else? Yang Ziming gritted his teeth again. One soul-quenching gourd contains 100,000 souls. This time, they used a total of 10 soul-quenching gourds, which means that they have to slaughter at least 1 million people. 1 million people. This was a shocking number. Chu Yang's eyelids twitched, and his voice turned cold. "I'm afraid it's more than 1 million. When he was interrogating the group of spies, he had heard that an entire city was slaughtered. From the cities that Chu Yang had come into contact with, one city had at least 1 million people. More than 1 million people? At this time, Yang Ziming couldn't help but exclaim in shock. Chu Yang nodded. "I interrogated some people before, and they told me that a city and town were completely slaughtered. A city has at least 1 million people, but after the massacre, the Soul Devourer clan and the Thousand Demons sect didn't stop. They probably didn't plunder enough souls, but because of the huge commotion, they turned to some small villages and towns." These were all Chu Yang's conjectures. These are all beasts, they are all beast. Yang Ziming almost went crazy again. Chu Yang didn't refute, and allowed Yang Ziming to go crazy. When he calmed down, he spoke again. "Did you find out the whereabouts of the Gold Rock Saint?" Yang Ziming nodded. "Good." Chu Yang said. "I still need to rest for a while. There's not much time left until daybreak. We'll set off at daybreak. After daybreak, it's time to kill." Chu Yang's voice was filled with terrifying killing intent, causing Yang Ziming's body to tremble. Could it be that he was about to get his revenge? At the same time, he couldn't help but look at Chu Yang again, but Chu Yang had already closed his eyes and entered a deep state of meditation. Young Master Chu, are you anxious after hearing all this? Even if you're not strong enough, you still don't hesitate. Chapter 649. The sky gradually brightened up. It was as if someone had smeared a layer of light green on the horizon. The light green turned into a light yellow, then from light yellow to crimson, dark red, and finally, golden red. At this moment, along with the change of color, the sun slowly walked over from the horizon. At first, one could only see a corner, then an arc, then a semicircle, and finally a full circle. The moment the sun appeared in the sky again, golden light radiated in all directions. Thousands of golden light rays shone on the earth. The sky was completely bright. The mountains, valleys, and streams were all lit up. The land was green and the sun shone on the earth. It was a brand new day. Jinyuan City, Huangxiao, a restaurant. The sunlight shone in from the outside and fell on Chu Yang's body. He suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately, his eyes were like the sun that had just risen in the sky. A bright light burst out from his eyes like thousands of rays of sunlight. Young Master Chu. Yang Ziming had been waiting by the side. When he saw that Chu Yang had woken up, he immediately greeted him respectfully. Let's go. Chu Yang stood up and said, later, you just need to be in charge of showing me the way. If I don't answer, don't bother. Young Master Chu, if you haven't adjusted your breathing, you don't have to be in a hurry, Yang Ziming quickly said. Don't think too much. I just want to comprehend the supreme way of the assassin along the way. Whoosh. Yang Ziming felt that he was carried by Chu Yang in an instant. Like a gold rock bird with large wings, he soared into the sky. Then, he was shocked to find that Chu Yang really lowered his eyes again. He didn't know what to say anymore. He wondered in his heart, will this really work? Yang Ziming felt that Chu Yang was in too much of a hurry. He actually wanted to comprehend the way of the assassin during the flight. However, he didn't have time to think about it. Chu Yang's flying speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, he was almost out of Jinyuan City. He had completely deviated from the direction he was heading. He hurriedly said, Young Master Chu, go west. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Ziming suddenly realized that Chu Yang, who seemed to be in a deep sleep, suddenly changed directions and quickly headed west. Young Master Chu, follow this mountain range. After leaving Jinyuan City, they soon entered a mountain range. Yang Ziming was astonished to find that this was really possible. Wherever he pointed, Chu Yang immediately flew there without the slightest error, and his speed was extremely fast. Chu Yang was comprehending the sword art. It was as if he had entered a deep sleep, but he was still able to do so. It was truly miraculous and shocking. Hashuan percent Hashuan. Seeing Yang Ziming's shocked and worshipful expression, Xiaowu immediately scolded, Why are you shocked? Do you really think that this thing is very powerful? This is Grandpa Monkey controlling it. Soon, a small village deep in the mountains appeared in their field of vision. Boss, we're almost there. Before Yang Ziming could say anything, Little Five had already woken up Chu Yang. Have we arrived? Chu Yang opened his mouth and asked Yang Ziming before opening his eyes. We've arrived, I guess. Yang Ziming's voice was obviously angry. After Chu Yang opened his eyes, he understood a little. The small village seemed to have been ravaged by an extremely violent hurricane. All the houses had collapsed, and the ground was almost flat. This small village is surrounded by mountains. How could there be such a huge hurricane? This was extremely illogical. Chu Yang's pupils shrank slightly, and he flew down quickly. When he sensed carefully, there were no chickens or dogs in the collapsed village. He didn't see a single person either. Chapter 650. Chu Yang originally thought that the people here had been completely slaughtered by the Thousand Devil sect. However, he didn't find a single corpse at the scene, not even a trace of blood. It was as if everyone in the small mountain village had been blown away by the hurricane. It was also as if all the villagers had chosen to leave after the hurricane ravaged this place. It was so quiet that it was terrifying. It was so quiet that it made everything seem strange and eerie. What exactly happened here? Chu Yang couldn't help but frown. What else could have happened? When Yang Ziming saw the scene in front of him, it was as if he had returned to the Yang family village. He raised his head and roared at the sky. Then, like a mad hound, he ran wildly, as if he was searching for something. After a while, he stopped at a place where a large amount of soil had been turned over. Then, he dug down with both hands. Yang Ziming's movements were extremely fast, like a digging mouse. As the soil was continuously dug out, Chu Yang saw his entire body tremble. Then, his movements became gentle, but he dug even faster. When Chu Yang looked over, he was surprised to see a small head slowly appear. At first, it was only hair. Later on, it was a child who was only 3 or 4 years old. That extremely frightened face was completely revealed. When it was imprinted in Chu Yang's eyes, it was as if a spear had ruthlessly pierced through his body. His soul seemed to have been nailed to the ground by this spear. After that, Yang Ziming quickly dug down. The figure of the 3 or 4 child was completely revealed. Under the child's little feet, there was a pair of hands, a pair of women's hands. These hands were desperately trying to lift up, but at a certain moment, they lost their strength and completely stopped. When Yang Ziming saw this pair of women's hands, he suddenly trembled and crazily dug down. A woman quickly appeared in front of Yang Ziming's eyes, and at the same time, it was imprinted in Chu Yang's eyes. At this moment, Chu Yang's entire body fiercely trembled. It was as if he had been struck by lightning, and his entire body shook violently. The woman's panic-stricken, yet extremely hopeful, praying expression once again stabbed into his eyes like spears and needles, stabbing into his heart. Such a scene was more than heart-piercing. Bastards, you goddamn bastards. Yang Ziming was extremely angry. He even shouted hysterically, "I'm going to kill you all. I'm going to kill you all. I'm going to kill you all." Wang. Chu Yang abruptly released his spiritual power to sense the ground, and his entire body shook violently. Underneath the soil, everything was so clear to him that he could see everything clearly. Chickens, dogs, livestock, men, women, old people, children. All the people and livestock in the entire mountain village were buried under the ground. There were nearly 1,000 people. And underneath, there were countless faces. Faces of terror, faces of anger, faces of despair, and countless other faces. At this moment, Chu Yang sensed these faces, and he couldn't help but see the scene of all the villagers being buried alive, their cries, their screams, their pleas, their roars, their curses, and their struggles. Because of Chu Yang's extremely powerful perception, every scene was extremely real and vivid. It made him feel as if he was there at the time, watching a bunch of bastards brutally bury the villagers alive. Such a scene, Chu Yang couldn't bear to watch. He withdrew his spiritual power and quickly lowered his eyes. He didn't even dare to look at the 3 or 4-year-old child that Yang Ziming had first dug up, and the woman who was trying her best to lift the child up. That should be the child's mother. Chapter 651. In the depths of this mountain range, there were a dozen or so villages of various sizes. Chu Yang and Yang Ziming flew all the way. None of the villages were spared. Some were covered by hurricanes like the first village, some were set on fire, some at the foot of the mountain, and some were directly buried by landslides. Chu Yang only watched all of this from mid-air. He didn't wait to see these people being slaughtered like chickens, ducks, pigs, or dogs. He watched the atrocities of this world, the tragedies of this world. If he saw too much of this, those with weak hearts would have nightmares every night. They would probably collapse. Of course, Chu Yang wasn't worried about this. Right now, he only had one thought, and that was to immediately track down the Thousand Devil sect and the Gold Rock Holy Sun. Therefore, his speed was even faster. With Yang Ziming's cultivation, it was almost impossible for him to withstand this speed. Father, mother. Suddenly, a mournful scream pierced through the sky, piercing the silence of this mountain range. It came from afar and pierced into Chu Yang and Yang Ziming's ears. Immediately, the two of them were shocked. Whoosh! Chu Yang flew in the direction of the sound. Suddenly, He couldn't help but increase his speed. His eyesight was extremely good. He had already seen a group of villagers in a long line in the distance. They were being herded around like pigs and sheep by a group of people. At the back, there were 2 corpses lying in a pool of blood. An angry youth charged fearlessly at a big man with a knife scar. "I'll fight it out with you." Bang! He was directly kicked away by the big man with a knife scar. He fell to the ground and rolled around in pain. "Mph, you don't know the difference between life and death." The knife-scarred man coldly snorted and immediately roared at the group of villagers, "All of you listen to me carefully. Hurry up and move forward. If any of you dilly-dallying, I'll make you beg for death." With his threat, the sound of weeping among the villagers suddenly increased. The cries of children, the cries of women, all sorts of mixed together. "It's so noisy. I'm so annoyed. I've been listening to it all night." Beside Scar, a dwarf heard the cries of the villagers and was immediately enraged. His figure moved, and with a swoosh, he went straight for a crying woman in the crowd. He raised his hand and slapped her to death. Then, he threatened in a dark voice, "Whoever cries again will end up like this." The villagers were so frightened that they immediately stopped crying. However, the dwarf was too cruel. He actually smashed the crying woman into pieces. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Not far away, there was a child. Blood and flesh splattered on his face. He was so frightened that he started crying loudly. "You still dare to cry?" The dwarf immediately glared over. Not only did he see the crying child, but he also saw the child's mother. She was a beautiful woman in her 20s. Immediately, the dwarf's eyes lit up. "What a beautiful girl. I've been busy the whole night, and I'm just going to have fun with you." He moved his body and instantly appeared in front of the woman. The woman was so frightened that she screamed. The child was so frightened that he couldn't stop crying. The dwarf grabbed the child and threw him away. Then, he grabbed the woman and tore her clothes apart. "Ha." The big man with a knife scar and the others who were chasing the villagers away couldn't help but laugh when they saw this scene. "I'm going to kill this bastard." At this moment, Chu Yang brought Yang Ziming down from the sky. When Yang Ziming saw this scene, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He wanted to rush out and kill the dwarf. Chu Yang suddenly held him down. Then, he coldly looked at him and warned, "Yang Ziming, listen carefully. I have no objections to you saving people. I also have no objections to you killing people. However, if you interfere with me killing people, I'll kill you first." Chapter 652. But, young Master Chu Yang finally suppressed his anger and said coldly, "I'll give you 2 choices now. First, if you rush to save her, you'll die, but the woman will also be humiliated and all the villagers will die. Second, if you don't ruin my plan, although the woman will be humiliated, the villagers might not die. Now, tell me, which one do you choose?" This was not a difficult choice, but it was definitely not an easy choice either. Who could watch a bastard humiliate a woman and remain indifferent? "Young Master Chu, I understand." Yang Ziming gritted his teeth. But, he knew that Chu Yang was making the most sensible choice. And, it was also the most correct choice. If he couldn't kill the Gold Rock Holy Sun and the demon child of the Thousand Demon Sect, he could only kill a few small fries. Once they were alerted, there would be no chance for him to assassinate them. Whoosh! At this moment, 2 powerful auras broke through the air and stopped in mid-air. There were a total of 4 people. Of the 2 people in front, one was a young man in white. He had a dignified appearance and was elegant. A wine gourd hung from his waist and a black gourd was in his hand. Next to the white-clothed youth was a middle-aged man in a black robe. His black hair was very lush, like a lion's mane. It grew wantonly and barbarically, but he didn't have a beard. His face was also very delicate, like a baby's. Behind each of them was a follower. When Yang Ziming saw the white-clothed young man, he was about to go crazy. He couldn't wait to rush out and fight with him. His reaction made the identity of the white-clothed young man clear: the Gold Rock Holy Son of the Soul Devourer clan. When the Gold Rock Holy Son arrived and saw a dwarf making fun of a woman, he couldn't help but frown. He said to the black-robed man next to him, "Seventh Demon General, I don't have any objections to your subordinates making fun of themselves. It's just that the things we do are not tolerated by others. We need to be fast and fierce to achieve our goals in the shortest amount of time. If everyone is like him, how long do we have to drag it out?" The black-robed man naturally saw the scene below, and a trace of demonic aura immediately appeared on his white face. He cupped his fists and said to the Gold Rock Holy Son of the Gold Rock, "Please don't misunderstand. I've already repeated the order, but there are always people who don't take it seriously." As he spoke, the black-robed man suddenly extended his hand. A demonic snake charged down from above like lightning. The snake opened its mouth wide and bit down fiercely. It bit the dwarf in half and swallowed him whole. His cold voice rumbled down like thunder from the 9 heavens, "My words don't hold any weight, do they?" The 7 dark generals, the scarred man and the other members of the 1,000 Devils sect all trembled and immediately knelt down. "Seventh Demon General, we know our wrongs. Please spare our lives. Seventh Demon General, please spare our lives." In the air, the 7 demon generals' cold voice once again pressed down, "I have repeatedly ordered that if anyone dares to offend us again, they will be killed without mercy." Chu Yang saw everything in front of him, but he didn't have the time to watch the show. His eyes landed on the Gold Rock Holy Son, but he said to young Ziming, "I don't have the energy to care about your safety. You're on your own. Young Master Chu, my life is worthless. Even if I die, you don't have to worry about my safety." Young Ziming looked at Chu Yang's back as he left, and couldn't help but feel that he was imposing and tall. He was only at the first layer of the ascending soul tier, and there was such a huge difference in strength, but he actually dared to make a move on the Gold Rock Holy Son, these bastards who had the cultivation of the soul wheel tier. Who had such guts, who had such boldness? Chapter 653. Chu Yang was indeed confident that he could kill the Gold Rock Saint Child with a single strike, but he wasn't confident that he could deal with the black-robed man, the 7 Demon General. When the Gold Rock Saint Child and the 7 Demon General appeared, Chu Yang sensed their auras and immediately determined their cultivation realm and strength. Just as he thought, the Gold Rock Saint Child was about the same as the Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess. They were both at the 5th level of the soul circulation realm, but the Gold Rock Saint Child's aura was much more vigorous than the Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess. To Chu Yang, the most fatal one wasn't the Gold Rock Saint Child, but the 7 Demon General. The 7 Demon General of the 1,000 Devil sect was even stronger. He was at the 6th level of the soul circulation realm and was on par with the Jinyuan City's City Lord, Lady Yi. Without the help of the formation, he definitely wasn't a match for Lady Yi, and similarly, he definitely wasn't a match for the 7 Demon General. Chu Yang was also a little apprehensive of the followers behind the Gold Rock Saint Child and the 7 Demon General. Both of their followers were at the soul circulation realm, and once they burst out, they would be extremely powerful. After various evaluations, he could confirm that if Chu Yang killed the Gold Rock Saint Child, he would very likely be surrounded and killed in the end. This was naturally the worst-case scenario. Of course, Chu Yang also had his own plan, to kill in one strike and flee 1,000 miles away. Once he killed the Gold Rock Saint Child and obtained the black gourd in the Gold Rock Saint Child's hand, he would immediately flee. Naturally, he would return the same way he left. Whether it was an assassination or an escape, he had to rely on the path to heaven. The path to heaven consumed a lot of energy, and the energy consumption was directly proportional to the distance. The longer the distance, the more energy consumption. The shorter the distance, the less energy consumption. Therefore, the location to assassinate the Gold Rock Saint Child was very specific. It couldn't be too far away, or the energy consumption would be too high. It couldn't be too close, or else it would be detected. Chu Yang was proficient in formations and grasped the surrounding terrain very quickly. He instantly chose the location. Assassination, where to launch the assassination. Escape, where to flee to after the assassination. Every single one of these was extremely intricate and needed to be carefully considered. At this moment, he was also recalling the peerless sword that he had seen in the assassin martial soul. The ancient assassin's sword strike made no sound, nor did it cause any ripples. In the end, the assassin's aura vanished, and so did his entire person. It was as if he had broken through the void and ascended into the heavens. It was as if he had taken the void as a world of darkness and was walking within it. That sword strike was fast, crafty, and absolute. An assassin's loyalty, bravery, and absolute determination also appeared in his mind. However, when Chu Yang had prepared everything, just like when he was about to launch a sneak attack on the five elements' divine child, he hesitated and became afraid. He thought of all the consequences of failure and all the things that he could not bear. Fortunately, he had experience and knew that if he didn't advance, he would retreat. If he retreated, his spirit would retreat, which would have a great impact on his body. Chu Yang also thought of everything he had done in the Five Elements sect and Jinyuan City. What right did he have to act so recklessly and abandon all restraint? Yes, it was because of his strength, fearlessness, and confidence. However, the main reason was probably the transformation of his spirit when he ambushed the Five Elements' divine child. If the heavens were unfair, he would seek justice for himself. If he wanted to be free and unfettered, he would have to fight with others, fight with the heavens, fight with fate, and even fight with himself. If he didn't have such courage and boldness, he would have to restrain his ambitions and desires and bury them deep in his heart. He would have to compromise in the face of injustice. If he wanted to wear the crown, he would have to bear its weight. There was a price for everything. If he wanted to be free and unfettered, he would have to bear the consequences and pay an even greater price. Martial arts cultivation was also going against the heavens and fighting against fate. Otherwise, how would he be able to move the clouds and rain with a flip of his hand? How would he be able to pluck the stars and moon? The villagers in front of him and the dozens of villages that had been buried alive were also one of the reasons. When faced with such injustice and inhumane acts, they did not dare to do anything. What else could they do? Chu Yang's determination to assassinate the Gold Rock Holy Sun was soon unwavering. He no longer thought about the outcome and consequences. Now, he was only thinking about whether he should do it or not. Since he had to do it, he had to do it. Chapter 654. Chu Yang walked towards the best spot for the assassination. He displayed his full understanding of the array formation, including the power of the heavens and the topography. As he walked, he seemed to be an array seal. With every step he took, he seemed to be more in tune with the heavens and the earth. Towards the end, he actually did not feel out of place as he walked in the forest. It was as though this had always been the case. In the forest, there should always be a person like him walking in it. This was just like how there were rocks and trees in the forest to begin with. In this way, Chu Yang was naturally extremely difficult to detect. At the same time, he retracted his aura to the extreme. Chu Yang calmly arrived at the best spot for the assassination. He held the 7 kills sword in his hand. Without any superfluous movements, Zhongxian immediately activated the path to heaven. A straight path appeared beneath his feet. The path ahead was nowhere to be seen, and the path behind him was nowhere to be seen. He had no idea where he had come from or where he was going. Of course, he did not use his vital essence to form clouds to hide the path to heaven. This time, he was not creating the somersault cloud that he remembered. He was killing. Chu Yang took a step on the path to heaven with a swoosh. He left his original spot as though he had teleported. In an instant, he appeared behind the Gold Rock Saint. It was as though he had appeared out of thin air, as though he had suddenly jumped out of the void. The ancient sword Dao, that peerless sword, and the path to heaven were perfectly integrated. At this moment, Chu Yang was like an assassin walking in the darkness. He appeared out of nowhere, and time and space seemed to be in his control. With a stab of his sword, it was as though time had stopped. Everything had stopped, and only his sword was moving. When the sword struck, it directly pierced through the back of the Gold Rock Saint's neck, piercing through his entire throat. He drew his sword and took the black gourd from the Gold Rock Holy Sun's hand. Then, he used the road to heaven and disappeared without a trace. It was as if he had entered the void and disappeared. At this moment, the surrounding people still didn't know what had happened. The people of the Thousand Demon sect were doing their own things, and the villagers who were being chased walked numbly. Even young Ziming, who had been watching all of this from afar, didn't even notice Chu Yang. He didn't notice that Chu Yang had stabbed the Gold Rock Holy Sun to death. Fast. Chu Yang was really too fast. It could be said that he killed with a single strike. He immediately moved 1,000 miles away. When Yang Ziming realized that the black gourd in the Gold Rock Sage's hands had disappeared, he realized that Chu Yang had made a move. The Gold Rock Sage had already covered his throat with his hands and was making strange noises. The 7 demon generals were the first to notice all of this. However, he couldn't believe that someone could silently kill the Gold Rock Sage right under his nose. Although he saw the assassin's face, saw the assassin take the black gourd from the Gold Rock Sage's hands, and even saw the direction in which the assassin escaped, the moment he was shocked, the assassin had already escaped and disappeared without a trace. Of course, he recognized this assassin, Chu Yang. Chu Yang was too famous. There were too few people who didn't know about him now. Bang! The Gold Rock Sage breathed his last and fell to the ground with a muffled sound, raising a cloud of dust. The villagers' terrified screams resounded. Only then did the people of the Thousand Demon sect realize all of this. They were dumbfounded. While they were panicking, the 7 demon generals' angry roars had already resounded through the sky. Chu Yang, you can't escape. You definitely can't escape. You'll definitely die. Boom. The 7 demon generals completely erupted. A wave of demonic chi soared into the sky, straight into the 9 heavens, like a beacon of fire. With him as the center, the air surged like a tsunami. Strong winds blew, and even the wind formed by him in mid-air blew the villagers away. Buzz. He couldn't find Chu Yang, so he immediately released his domain. In an instant, it covered an area of 600 feet. Within this 600 feet, nothing could escape his eyes. Chapter 655. Chu Yang could clearly hear the roars of the 7 demon generals. As for their domains, how could he not be prepared? Before he made his move, he had already calculated all of this, so how could the 7 demon generals succeed? What a pity! Chu Yang was within 650 feet of the 7 demon generals. He felt that it was a pity. He had killed the Gold Rock Holy Sun, so it was impossible for him to kill the 7 demon generals now. Especially since the 7 demon generals had already released their domains, it was even more impossible. However, he did not leave. He could not assassinate the 7 demon generals now, but after a while, when the 7 demon generals thought that he had left and relaxed their nerves, it might be an opportunity. At that time, the 7 demon generals would never expect that he would return. However, Chu Yang suddenly thought of Yang Ziming, and his heart could not help but skip a beat. Oh no! At this moment, the 7 demon generals had already roared, Chu Yang, do you think I can't find you hiding there? You're too naive, die. Rumble. The 7 demon generals furiously attacked, and a demon hand that blotted out the sky appeared, and slapped towards Yang Ziming, but midway, it changed into a claw, and grabbed Yang Ziming, and said furiously, so it's just an ant. Ha. Yang Ziming was discovered, but not only was he not afraid, he even laughed loudly. Bastard, I'm an ant, and you're also an ant in young Master Chu's eyes. Just wait for your death. Today it's the Gold Rock Holy Sun, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow it'll be you, you bastard, haha. Yang Ziming's laughter made him the center of attention. The villagers couldn't help but look at him. For a moment, they couldn't help but treat the so-called young Master Chu as their savior. As for the people of the Thousand Demon sect, they were completely terrified. Even a figure like the Gold Rock Holy Sun had been killed, and they didn't even know how he had been killed. This Chu Yang was too terrifying. Also, as Yang Ziming said, if Chu Yang could assassinate the Gold Rock Holy Sun, then Chu Yang could also assassinate the 7 demon generals. At this moment, the people of the Thousand Demon sect could not help but feel even more terrified. The 7 demon generals were also terrified. Yang Ziming's words were not wrong. Chu Yang's peerless attack just now was too shocking. He had no way to guard against it. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. He roared, Chu Yang, If you don't come out now, I'll crush your companion to death here. Ha ha. Yang Ziming laughed even louder. Beast, don't waste your time. I would like to be young Master Chu's companion, but unfortunately, I don't have the qualification. Fortunately, I didn't take the initiative to assassinate you bastards. Otherwise, I would have spoiled young Master Chu's plans. Haha, this is great. It's so satisfying to see you beasts' terrified expressions. Boom. The 7 demon generals naturally wouldn't believe Yang Ziming so easily. In their fury, they ruthlessly threw Yang Ziming to the ground. Yang Ziming let out a miserable shriek as his bones and tendons were broken. However, what was inconceivable was that in such a state, as soon as Yang Ziming landed on the ground, he actually jumped up and pounced on the nearest 1000 devil sect disciple. He bit off this person's neck, twisted his head off, and raised it up. Haha. Yang Ziming laughed loudly again. Satisfying, it's really satisfying. Beast, thank you. If you didn't send me to his side and make him think that I'm just a dying person, how could I possibly kill him? Haha. Fearless, not caring about his own life. Such a Yang Ziming caused the pupils of the 7 demon generals to shrink, and caused the people of the 1000 demon sect to tremble in fear. If every one of them was like Yang Ziming, they would die without a burial ground, their bodies smashed into pieces. Naturally, they knew what they had done. They were angered by both humans and gods. You're just an ant at the 3rd or 4th layer of the Chi Soul realm. You dare to be so arrogant in front of me? Die. The 7 demon generals were furious. The demonic hand that covered the sky once again brazenly slammed down. Haha. Yang Ziming endured the severe pain, straightened his back, and laughed out loud. Good job killing you, bastard. Thank you for sending me to hell. I will wait for you in hell. When you enter hell, you will lose your advantage in terms of cultivation. I will eat you alive bit by bit. What kind of hatred, what kind of enmity could cause Yang Ziming to act like this? Yang Ziming's actions were terrifying. Bang! The 7 demon generals seemed to be afraid of meeting Yang Ziming's ghost in hell and being eaten alive. In their fury, the demonic hand turned from slapping to sweeping. Moreover, their movements were extremely gentle, as if they were afraid of killing an ant like Yang Ziming. How could they not see that Yang Ziming was determined to die, so they continued to provoke him. Chapter 656. Men, hang this ant up for me. However, in an instant, the people of the 1000 devil sect immediately hung Yang Ziming up and swayed in the air. Chu Yang, are you going to watch your companion die bit by bit? There was no response. Other than the furious voices of the 7 demon generals, there was only the sound of Yang Ziming's blood dripping. After a while, the 7 demon generals' patience reached its limit. They sneered, Chu Yang, didn't you dislike us beasts? Then I'll let you have a good look. I want to see how long you can endure. As they spoke, the 7 demon generals used their vital essence to grab a 5 or 6-year-old child from among the villagers and threw him under Yang Ziming. The child was frightened and couldn't stop crying. Ha ha. The 7 demon generals laughed loudly. Cry, cry louder. With this threat, the child's crying became even louder. Hurry up and shout, Uncle Chu Yang, come and save me. Otherwise, I'll kill you right now. Under the immense pressure of the 7 demon generals, the child was even more frightened. As he cried, he did as he was told. Uncle Chu Yang, quickly come and save me. However, there was still no response from the surroundings. Yang Ziming, who was hung up, was mad with hatred at this moment. He roared at the bottom of his lungs like a crazy beast. The 7 demon generals' expressions became even gloomier. Chu Yang's calm temperament made the fear in his heart grow rapidly. If Chu Yang didn't appear in the end, then he would definitely die miserably. He roared at the 5 or 6-year-old child again, hurry up and cry, call Uncle Chu, call me. Say Uncle Chu, I'm still young, I don't want to die. How could a 5 or 6-year-old child resist the 7 demon generals of the 1000 devil sect? As he cried, his young voice rang out again. Uncle Chu, quickly come and save me. I'm still young, I don't want to die. The child's cries entered his ears and dug out his heart. Yang Ziming roared in the air, Bastards, you won't even let go of a 5 or 6-year-old child. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? The 7 demon generals didn't pay attention to Yang Zemin's roar. He smiled and walked in front of the child. His big hand landed on the child's small head and rubbed it. Then, an evil smile appeared on his fair and delicate face as he praised, "Little brat, you did well. So, I'll make sure you die a quick death." As he spoke, he suddenly pinched the child's head. Then, like a demon, he laughed softly. "Wait a moment, I'll pinch your little head like this. Then, I'll use some force, and your little head will explode with a bang. Brain matter will splatter everywhere. So don't be afraid, you will die very quickly." Yang Ziming was on the verge of going crazy. He struggled violently and swayed in the air, but he seemed to be powerless. Chu Yang. The 7 demon generals pinched the child's head and looked in the direction where Chu Yang might be. He said, "Chu Yang, listen carefully. After I count to 3, I'll crush his little head. I'll let you see what his brain matter is like. Then, it'll be the next one." The 7 demon generals turned to look at the villagers and laughed evilly again. There seemed to be quite a number of children among them. There are even babies. "I'll show you their brains one by one." He stretched out a finger and began to count down. The scene was dead silent. The 7 demon generals didn't know if Chu Yang would come out. He didn't even know if Chu Yang was here. Yang Ziming also didn't know if Chu Yang would appear. He knew that Chu Yang was very calm, but could Chu Yang just watch this bastard crush children to death? He didn't know either. The only thing he knew was that Chu Yang would also die if he came out, and the result would be even worse. These children were all going to die one by one. All the villagers were going to die as well. Even their souls were going to be taken away. Chapter 657. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. The wind blew. There was not much sound, but at this moment, it seemed to be howling and roaring. The sound of the wind was so loud that it broke into everyone's ears. 2. The Dark Seven stretched out his second finger. His deep voice also spread far and wide, echoing in the surroundings. It was as if he was afraid that Chu Yang couldn't hear it, or as if he was playing with the devil before killing someone. Woo! The dead silence was broken. The parents of the children in the village began to cry. The mournful cries were heart-wrenching. Wah! The child that the 7 dark generals were holding was now crying even harder. He seemed to have realized something. The crying of the children mixed with the cries of the adults, making everything seem even more sorrowful. The Dark 7 didn't stop the child's parents, nor did they stop the child's crying. He felt that he was enjoying the sound of this crying. If Chu Yang was nearby, Chu Yang would hear this crying. He believed that Chu Yang would also enjoy it. In any case, the Dark 7 thought so. 3. The time for the devil to kill and eat people had arrived. The crying turned into wails, making people even more worried. The Dark 7's movements were a bit slow. He was waiting for Chu Yang to appear. Of course, he didn't mind killing one first. After all, there were still many children. If Chu Yang didn't appear, he naturally didn't mind killing all of these children one by one. After all, he wanted to kill all of these children in the first place. It was just that the method was a bit different now. Therefore, it made no difference to him. Just as the Dark 7 was about to kill again, a voice suddenly came from afar. The voice was a bit lazy and indifferent, but there was no trace of anger. The Dark 7 of the 1000 Devil sect, right? Can you tell me why you were angry just now? I'm very curious about your brain. The meaning of these words was very simple. You killed people, and they wanted to kill you. What were you angry about? Along with this voice, a figure appeared. One could faintly see a little beast standing on his shoulder. Chu Yang. Yang Ziming looked at the figure that was slowly walking over from afar. His eyes widened and his heart constricted. He still appeared. He still can't bear to see such a tragic scene. Yang Ziming couldn't help but think back to what had happened before. Chu Yang had angrily rebuked him, but that wasn't because Chu Yang was cold-hearted. That was just on the surface. It was precisely because his heart was too soft that he wanted to do everything perfectly. That was why he was incomparably calm, and that was why he appeared somewhat cold-blooded. However, in the end, Chu Yang still couldn't bear it. Of course, Yang Ziming thought too highly of Chu Yang. Since Chu Yang dared to appear now, he naturally had something to rely on. He had killed the Gold Rock Holy Sun and obtained the Black Gourd from the Gold Rock Holy Sun. The Black Gourd should be the soul-tempering gourd. It was almost full of living souls. One soul-tempering gourd had 100,000 living souls. Inside the gourd, there were only 1,000 or 2,000 souls missing. Chu Yang planned to absorb these 100,000 living souls into his spiritual world. He planned to directly upgrade his martial spirit and raise his cultivation. This was extremely dangerous. The Gold Rock Holy Sun and the 7 devils had killed many of them. Their methods were cruel. Many of the living souls had already turned into malicious spirits, vengeful spirits, and resentful spirits. It could even be said that nearly 100,000 living souls had turned into vicious spirits. They were extremely vicious. The evil chi, resentment chi, and death chi within them couldn't be underestimated. Therefore, once so many vicious spirits entered his spiritual world, the consequences could be imagined. If he wasn't careful, not to mention his martial spirit, even his divine soul would be torn to pieces by these vicious spirits. Of course, Chu Yang also had his own reliance, the Destiny Twins' martial spirit. Chapter 658. Taking in 100,000 souls into his spiritual world and using them to upgrade his martial spirit, Chu Yang treated this as a dangerous assassination attempt. In terms of mental state, he had already gone through 2 tests, so at this moment, he didn't have too many thoughts. 7 demon generals, I'm not only curious about your anger, but also your thoughts. I'm also very curious about your emotions. Chu Yang's lazy voice sounded again. There was still no anger in it, only a hint of mockery. This made everyone present feel astonished. Everyone wanted to see Chu Yang more clearly, and their gazes fell on him without blinking. Da. 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 Chu Yang walked in the void. Every step he took, there was a crisp sound of footsteps. Although he looked slow, he was extremely fast. With every step, he covered an extremely large distance. In just a few steps, he arrived above the 7 demon generals and stopped. He looked down from mid-air and smiled at the 7 demon generals, revealing his white teeth. He laughed and said, 7 demon generals, what happened to your inhuman nature? Why did you secretly keep so many things related to human nature? Chu Yang's smile, revealing his white teeth, made Yang Ziming, the villagers, the people of the 1,000 Devil sect, and the 7 demon generals confused. Was he here to die? No matter how they looked at it, Chu Yang seemed to be the demon. He was here to kill and eat people, and the 7 demon generals were not. At this moment, the 7 demon generals were like the children in the hands of the 7 demon generals to Chu Yang. It seemed easy for Chu Yang to crush their heads. It was just a matter of raising his hand. The 7 demon generals looked at Chu Yang, who was in mid-air. They heard that Chu Yang had killed the city lord of Jinyuan City and the 3rd princess of Wei Kingdom. After their pupils shrank, they snorted coldly. He only killed a group of chickens and ducks. How can he be inhuman? What a joke. Oh, so this is how your brain works. Chu Yang smiled even more brilliantly. But I still don't understand. Why did you provoke me? Don't you know that I have many titles? For example, Chu Qingtian, Chu Tianjiao, Chu Xiandao, Chu Xiandao, Chu Xiandao, Chu Xiandao, and so on. One of them is called Chu You Can't Offend. Don't you know these? He held the soul-quenching gourd in one hand and pointed at the 7 dark generals with the other. He said with a smile, I can tell you seriously now that I'm angry, and the consequences are very serious. I'll make sure you die a good death later. First, it was Chu Qingtian, Great Genius Chu, Evildor Chu, and so on. After that, he even said something like, I'm angry, the consequences are very serious, I'll make you die very rhythmically. How savage. The 7 demon generals laughed in extreme anger. Chu Yang, I heard that you are a genius, but your cultivation is merely in the first layer of the ascending soul tier, and you dare to boast so shamelessly in front of me. You really don't know your place. Hee hee. Chu Yang laughed. This is actually the thing that I'm most proud of. A group of noble people usually look down on me, belittle, and laugh at me, just like you. Then, when I press them to the ground and rub them, I feel very good and have a sense of accomplishment. When I rob and kill, I don't feel the slightest bit of guilt, don't you think? He seemed to be one of them. Previously, he had underestimated Chu Yang, and thought that Chu Yang would definitely not be able to kill the Gold Rock Holy Sun. But now, not only had Chu Yang killed the Gold Rock Holy Sun, he was even mocking the 7 demon generals. Haha. The 7 demon generals laughed in extreme anger again. Chu Yang, are you saying that I'm going to become one of them? Ayo. Chu Yang cried out in shock. 7th demon general, though your way of thinking is very strange, you're actually so smart. Uncle Chu, am really very surprised. Later, Uncle Chu will reward you with candy to eat. You're merely in the first layer of the ascending soul tier. Where did you get the support to dare be so impudent in front of me? Go die. Chapter 659. Swoosh. The moment the 7 dark generals attacked, Chu Yang retreated quickly, afraid that the villagers would be hurt. He only stopped when he was a certain distance away. Chu Yang, aren't you arrogant? Why are you running away? The 7 dark generals sneered. Oi, oi, oi. I'm talking about the 7 dark generals. Give me a chance to explain. Chu Yang didn't seem to be facing a life and death crisis. Instead, he seemed to be playing a game. He smiled and said, the reason why I retreated was that you made me suspicious. You wanted to kill me. Why are you angry? Am I also an ant or a chicken or a duck? His teasing concealed his unwillingness to hurt the villagers well. The 7 dark generals were even more furious now. Chu Yang was looking down on them too much. Chu Yang, how are you different from an ant or a chicken or duck to me? I'll kill you as if you're a dog. Well, you're still a dog, not an ant or a chicken or duck. It's wrong of you to be angry. Am I right? Yang Ziming was also somewhat speechless at this moment. He felt that Chu Yang was really a bit outrageous. Even if he was unrestrained, he shouldn't be unrestrained to this extent. This wasn't the time to be unrestrained. Then, Yang Ziming understood a little more. Chu Yang was obviously a lawless person who did everything according to his own whims. He only knew the word reason. If you didn't follow reason, he would kill you even if you were the heavenly emperor. Therefore, even in a life and death situation, as long as he thought that he was doing the right thing, he wouldn't care about life and death. Yang Ziming was impressed and envious at the same time. This was how a man should be. This was how a man should be. Buzz. The 7 dark generals closed the distance quickly. The moment he got close to Chu Yang, he shrouded him with his realm. However, to his surprise, Chu Yang didn't try to escape from his realm, and allowed him to shroud him. He was completely looked down upon. At that moment, the 7 dark generals couldn't help but be angry and sneer at the same time. They were furious and ruthless. Haha. Chu Yang laughed out loud. Ayo, you came to kill me, this ant, I'm so scared. Clang. Clang. The 9 dragons' bell floated above his head, and suddenly, the sound of the bell rang out, accompanied by the loud and clear roars of dragons. 9 dragons appeared on the bell, swimming and roaring. The sound of the bell and the roar of the dragon resounded through the world. All eyes were focused on this place. The battle of life and death between Chu Yang and the 7 dark generals had truly begun. Is that all you're relying on? The 7th dark general laughed sarcastically. I thought you were very capable. You want to fight me with this domain formed by a mere dead object. Chu Yang ignored him and said to the 9 dragons' bell, Little bell, the other side said that you're a dead object. Aren't you going to say something? This seemed to be a joke, but the 7 dark generals were shocked to find that after the 9 dragons' bell heard Chu Yang's words, the bell began to tremble violently. A misty and chaotic aura emerged from the bell, as if it was angry. The sound of the bell became even more melodious, and the roar of the dragon became even louder. His artifact has already given birth to a hazy consciousness. How is this possible? If that was the case, wouldn't his treasure artifact evolve towards a spirit stage treasure artifact? The 7 dark generals' heart trembled. While they were in shock, the suppression of the realm suddenly became even more intense. The 9 dragons' bell was about to collapse, but with a whoosh, a formation rushed out and fused with the 9 dragons' bell. Immediately, a dazzling light erupted from the bell. Formation diagram. With the combination of the 2 artifacts, they were able to resist the suppression of the 7 dark generals. Chu Yang laughed again. That thing, I'm sorry, but this aunt of mine has a lot of treasures. Please work harder. Damn it. The 7 dark generals exerted their strength once again. On Chu Yang's side, clanging sounds could be heard as the 7 murders sword rushed out. The 9 dragons' bell, the 7 murders sword, and the formation diagram. With the 3 of them working together, Chu Yang was able to resist them once again. I don't believe this. Buzz. Chapter 660. Boom. Chu Yang's body emitted a powerful aura. Even though he was in the territory of the 7 dark generals, he seemed to have become one with the heavens and the earth, as well as the territory of the 7 dark generals. At this time, Chu Yang laughed again. I'm sorry, 7 dark generals. Not only do I have a lot of treasures, but I'm also an array master. You didn't expect that, did you? What kind of tone was that? It was like a child who had won a victory and was extremely proud of himself. Chu Yang was about to die, but he still dared to mock the 7 dark generals. Go to hell. The 7 dark generals drove their territories with all their might. Immediately, the territory formed by Chu Yang's 9 dragons' bell, the formation map, and the 7 kill sword began to distort. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The buzzing sound continued to be heard, and the void there was also constantly distorted. Chu Yang had completely integrated the power of the formation map into his territory, but it seemed that he could not hold on any longer. If the territory formed by Chu Yang's 9 dragons' bell, the 7 kill sword, and the formation map was an iron rock, then the territory of the 7 dark generals was countless sledgehammers, constantly smashing on the iron rock. However, at this moment, Chu Yang was still very playful. He said with a smile, "Oh, it's so scary, but I still have a treasure." The 7 dark generals' eyelids twitched. Hee hee. Chu Yang waved the soul-refining gourd in his hand at the 7 dark generals and said with a smile, "7 dark generals, don't you know that I still have such a treasure? You're going to lose." Soul-refining gourd. The 7 dark generals were stunned. Then, they thought of a possibility. Could it be that he wants to devour the nearly 100,000 souls in the soul-refining gourd? That's simply courting death. You're right. Chu Yang saw the 7 dark generals' confusion and said with a smile, "7 dark generals, you're right. There's a reward. I'll reward you later." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Yang's tone was no longer frivolous. He said seriously to the soul-quenching gourd, "Everyone inside, I've accepted your karma. I've settled your grudges and sent you to reincarnation. Of course, because of this, I'll also devour you and borrow your strength to kill my enemies." What? The 7 demon generals were the most shocked. Chu Yang actually had such a plan. Within the soul-quenching gourd, there were close to 100,000 souls. They had all died horrible deaths. Most of them were evil ghosts and malicious ghosts. They were extremely ferocious, and they were all fighting each other within the soul-quenching gourd. Therefore, if these souls were not completely refined and turned into pure soul energy, once they were swallowed into the stomach and intruded into the spiritual world, it would be the slaughter of hundreds of thousands of malicious ghosts. Their martial soul and divine soul would be torn apart and eaten alive, and they would be deader than dead. Only a lunatic would do such a thing. In the eyes of the 7 dark generals, Chu Yang had already gone mad. At this moment, when Yang Ziming saw that Chu Yang was forced to such a state, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He roared angrily, "God, are you really blind?" Ha ha. After the 7 demon generals recovered from their shock, they burst into laughter. "Chu Yang, do you dare to swallow it?" Ha ha. He sneered. "Only a fool would do that. What do you think?" Chu Yang also laughed. He shook the soul-quenching gourd in his hand and said, I'll swallow this gourd of wine. As for the 7 demon generals, I'll give you all the rewards that I promised you later." As he spoke, Chu Yang raised his head, picked up the soul-quenching gourd, and poured it into his mouth as if he was drinking hard liquor. He didn't stop until the wine was finished. Humph, what a fool. Seeing this, the 7 demon generals immediately withdrew their realms. Chu Yang was simply courting death. It was equivalent to suicide. There was no doubt that he would die. There was no need for him to waste his energy to kill Chu Yang. He was very sure of this. There were close to 100,000 malicious souls in the soul-quenching gourd. He knew their ferocity very well. Because ordinary soul-quenching gourds couldn't suppress 100,000 malicious souls, he and the Gold Rock Holy Sun took turns suppressing them. Chapter 661. As the 100,000 souls entered Chu Yang's body, a ghostly fog suddenly surged out of his body. His entire body seemed to be polluted and instantly became as black as ink. Even the void was completely dyed black. The aura of resentment, death, viciousness, filth, and so on surged out from his body and shot straight up into the sky. It was like a filthy river that flowed in reverse up into the 9 heavens, as if it wanted to dye the entire 9 heavens black, dirty, occupy, and destroy. The scene was extremely frightening. Yang Ziming felt that Chu Yang's life aura was corroded by the resentment, evil, and filth at this moment, and quickly fell. Then, it was covered by the billowing death aura, and soon, he could no longer sense Chu Yang's life aura. Ha ha. But at this moment, Yang Ziming actually heard Chu Yang laugh loudly. "If I don't enter hell, who will? Today, I will be bold enough to learn from Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva. If hell is not empty, one cannot become a Buddha, and I will satisfy all of your wishes. You are definitely not repaying evil with good. Now, I will give you the interest first." Chu Yang seemed to be speaking to the 100,000 souls, but then he picked up the soul-refining gourd and pointed the mouth of the gourd at the corpse of the Gold Rock Saint. "I will give you a taste of your own medicine. Gold Rock Saint, do you think that your sins are over with your death? I will take your soul and refine it into pure soul energy and absorb it. Otherwise, how can I be worthy of the 100,000 souls that have died?" Kalek. Under the control of Chu Yang, the soul-refining gourd erupted with a huge suction force. Suddenly, a soul appeared on the corpse of the Gold Rock Saint and was sucked into the soul-refining gourd as it screamed in panic. Keek! Keek! Woo! At the same time, Chu Yang's body emitted ghostly cries, ghostly shrieks, ghostly cries. Thousands of ghostly cries rang out. His body also became darker, so dark that it became transparent. One could clearly see countless evil ghosts, malicious ghosts, vengeful ghosts, and resentful ghosts traversing his body. They seemed to be gnawing at his flesh and organs. They seemed to want to open up a hell that could hold thousands of ghosts within. The impact of 100,000 souls entering his body was simply too intense. Chu Yang let out a muffled groan and spat out a mouthful of blood. Blood continued to flow from the corners of his mouth. Patient and unmoving, like the earth. Quiet and deep, like a secret. Why was Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva named Ksitagarbha? The earth can bear everything, all the mountains and precipitous ridges, all the things on the earth. Earth was like the merit of Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva, able to bear all the difficult ascetic practices for all living beings. Moreover, the earth also has its own meaning of dependence. All life forms are formed and born from the earth. All living beings exist and are guided by the Bodhisattva. Zong is Hanzong, Fu Zong Yi. The meaning of Ksitagarbha was just like the earth. It could contain all kinds of merit and could induce all kinds of merit. It was difficult to practice asceticism, but it could save all living beings. Therefore, it was named Ksitagarbha. What Chu Yang comprehended in his mind soon manifested. The phantom of a giant spirit appeared behind him. His innate earth physique was activated, and his body instantly became as heavy as the earth. The misty chaos also appeared. Immediately, his body changed again. It was as if he had transformed from the earth into Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva. His current physique was no longer a simple innate physique, but a chaotic physique. Once the essence of chaos was triggered, his body became even more stable. He even faintly revealed a sense of forbearance and unmoving, like the earth, quiet and deep, like a secret. The impact of 100,000 souls entering his body was resisted by him. However, this was only the beginning. 100,000 souls immediately entered his spiritual world. In a trance, the entire ghost region appeared. All the ghosts rushed toward him and drowned him. Chu Yang, you son of a bitch. In his consciousness, Xiaowu suddenly saw countless ghosts swarming towards him. He immediately cursed and did not have the slightest intention to resist. He hurriedly fled towards the genius martial spirit. Little Black followed suit and ran to where the idiot martial spirit was. Only the saber martial spirit and the flood dragon martial spirit were resisting. They were enduring the impact of 100,000 souls, 100,000 malicious ghosts, vengeful ghosts, and evil ghosts. Clang, clang, clang. Chapter 662. Rumble. Chu Yang's spiritual world shook incessantly. Thousands of ghosts and monsters chased after his martial spirit like an army of thousands of galloping horses. They seemed to want to shake his spiritual world until it collapsed. They were like a tidal wave, closing in on the genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit. These were the two last fortresses, the last cities. If he could withstand it, he would live. If he couldn't, he would die immediately. Chu Yang's heartstrings couldn't help but tighten. He had always thought that the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit were very strong, but now the real test had come. If they were only fake strong, then everything would be revealed. The genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit would be torn to pieces like two pieces of paper. If they were as strong as Chu Yang imagined, then they would be as stable as a rock. The attack of the 100,000 evil spirits would be nothing more than child's play. At this time, Chu Yang also saw the 7 demon generals crossing their arms and laughing at him. The 7 demon generals were mocking, disdaining, and laughing mockingly. They were waiting for Chu Yang to die without a burial ground. The executioners of the 1,000 Devil sect were generally the same. Their mockery and ridicule were even worse than the 7 demon generals. He also saw the anxiety, worry, and hope in the eyes of Yang Ziming and all the villagers. Rumble. Thousands of ghosts surged towards the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit like a flood, like a landslide, rumbling. Ghost chi filled the air and occupied Chu Yang's entire spiritual world. However, a strange thing happened. No matter how turbulent and powerful they couldn't reach the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit. It was as if the sun and the moon weren't that far away and could be chased, but when you chased, no matter how hard you chased, the sun and the moon would always be on the horizon, and you would never be able to catch up. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Under the attack of thousands of ghosts, the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit immediately counterattacked. Circles of light waves and dark demonic patterns surged out from the two of them and swept out in all directions, emitting endless pressure. It was as if someone was roaring, "How dare you!" 100,000 souls had already lost their intelligence after death. They had turned into ferocious ghosts, evil spirits, and vengeful spirits. However, they were not affected by such a majestic aura. They kept running toward the genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit. Boom! The genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit seemed to be infuriated as they thought their dignity had been severely disrespected, causing them to unleash even more shocking auras. In the blink of an eye, the genius martial spirit was like a sun, and a divine kingdom appeared. The genius martial spirit was like the divine lord of the divine kingdom. Endless light, turned that place into a kingdom of light, a world of light. The idiot martial spirit had turned into a demon lord, releasing endless darkness and revealing the 9 underworlds. It annihilated and devoured everything, causing everything to sink into the darkness, never to be reincarnated. The two of them seemed to be performing the 1,000 lights and 10,000 shadows spell at the same time. The light illuminated everything, and the darkness covered everything. It was as if countless rays of light and countless shadows pierced through the thousands of ghosts. In the blink of an eye, the thousands of ghosts were controlled. They were controlled as if they were puppets. Not only that, under the illumination of the light, the ferocious, resentful, and evil spirits on the evil spirits quickly melted and disappeared completely. They quickly regained their intelligence, and their expressions became peaceful, serene, and pious, as if they were believers of the divine lord of the genius martial spirit. The ghosts shrouded in darkness also regained their intelligence in the darkness, but their ferocious and murderous auras were even stronger. They were uniform and filled with murderous intent. Chapter 663. Just as Chu Yang thought, if the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit were really strong, these 100,000 souls would just be a gust of wind. They would not be able to cause any waves in front of the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit. The 100,000 souls' attack on Chu Yang's spirit and divine soul came to an abrupt end. The evil qi, resentment, death qi, and filthy qi on Chu Yang's body retreated like the night. They quickly disappeared without a trace, leaving no trace behind. The darkness around his body also quickly receded, and a gentle light was the first to bloom. It made people feel calm, peaceful, and comfortable. Their hearts were filled with joy, and they fell into a great happiness. It was as if they were in heaven, and there were no more worries, and no more fear. Soon, another aura rushed out from his body. This was a dark and destructive aura. Once it appeared, killing intent instantly shrouded the surroundings. The boundless majesty seemed to want to slaughter the common people and destroy the heaven and earth. The two auras were extremely opposite and conflicted, but they converged on Chu Yang's body in harmony. It made him look like a benevolent god, but also like a demon that destroyed everything. Blocked, ha ha. After a moment of shock, Yang Ziming could not help but laugh out loud. He was overjoyed. At this moment, the villagers could not help but cheer as if they had been saved. 100,000 evil spirits, how fierce are they? How did he suppress them? How did he do it? The 7 demon generals trembled as if they had been struck by lightning. Even though they tried their best to control it, their hands were still shaking uncontrollably. The group of executioners of the 1,000 Devil sect, their sharp and harsh sneers and disdain, stopped abruptly. They could no longer make any sound. It was as if Chu Yang was choking all of their necks. They were terrified to the extreme. That was 100,000 evil spirit. Not to mention other things, if these 100,000 evil spirits had saliva, they could drown them with a mouthful of saliva. However, this Chu Yang in front of them had actually completely suppressed and controlled these 100,000 evil spirits. They knew very well how fierce the evil spirits were, because they knew very well how wronged and miserable those people had died. He should not be able to completely control these 100,000 evil spirits. I still have a chance. Wang. The 7 demon generals immediately released their own domains, enveloping Chu Yang. This was his last chance. Buzz buzz buzz. Under his full power, his domain crazily squeezed the domain formed by the 9 dragons bell, the 7 kill sword, and the array diagram. Just as he was about to succeed, specks of light suddenly appeared from Chu Yang's body and turned into figures of light. They gathered all of their power into the domain formed by the 9 dragon bells. Soon, the domain was like a reef in the sea, as stable as a rock. No matter how the domain of the 7 demon generals crashed into it, it did not move in the slightest. Boom! Things weren't over yet. After the motes of light and the figures of light, devil energy surged and rumbled. It was as if an army of thousands of men and horses were charging out. One devil after another rushed out, each of them extremely powerful, seemingly undying and indestructible. They could dye everything black and destroy everything. Their killing intent soared into the sky, making them look like gods of slaughter. With the appearance of thousands of devil shadows, the domain formed by the 9 dragon bells was even more unshakable. This was the power of 100,000 souls. Even if the 7 demon generals were at the 6th level of the soul wheel realm and could execute a 6th level domain, what could they do? How could one person shake 10,000 people? 100,000 people. Clang, clang, clang. Chapter 664. Second level of the Ascending Soul Realm, third level of the Ascending Soul Realm, fourth level of the Ascending Soul Realm. In the blink of an eye, Chu Yang's Sword Blade Martial Spirit and Flood Dragon Martial Spirit rose from the first level of the Ascending Soul Realm to the ninth level of the Ascending Soul Realm. Little 5 and Little 6 were Chu Yang's Martial Spirits, Special Martial Spirits. They also rose to the ninth level of the Ascending Soul Realm, and their soul bodies became even more powerful and valiant. These few martial spirits seemed to have ascended to the throne because of the Genius Martial Spirit and the Fool Martial Spirit. They had the merit of ascending to the throne, and all of them were bestowed with the title of king. They became the backbone of the emperor, and the officials of the border. Chu Yang didn't find this strange at all. After all, there were 100,000 souls behind them as the foundation, the support, and the push. He even felt that he could enter the second level of the Ascending Soul Realm from the first level, and officially step into the third level. Unfortunately, the Genius Martial Spirit and the Fool Martial Spirit didn't have the slightest movement. They were still at the first level of the Ascending Soul Realm. The stronger the Martial Spirit, the harder it was to raise its grade. Where there's life, there's hope. Seeing that Chu Yang's momentum had been established, the 7 demon generals no longer obstructed him. They used their own domains as a cage, trapping Chu Yang, and fled for their lives. 7 demon generals, where are you going? Did I allow you to escape? Now that the crisis was over, Chu Yang's mind relaxed. He smiled again, but his movements weren't slow at all. Bang! With a thought, the domain formed by the 9 dragon bells and the other 3 suddenly expanded. The 7 demon generals' domains immediately burst open like a balloon. Then, the domain enveloped the 7 demon generals. Boom boom boom! The 7 demon generals attacked Chu Yang's domain crazily, trying to tear apart Chu Yang's domain and escape. After all, he was at the 6th level of the Soul Wheel realm, and Chu Yang's domain was formed by a treasured artifact. So, it should be possible. However, it was a pity that no matter how he attacked, it was all in vain. The power of 100,000 souls, how powerful was that? The power of 100,000 souls, what kind of mighty power was that? So what if you are at the 6th level of the soul circulation realm? The 7 demon generals were trapped in Chu Yang's domain, and they were in complete despair. With the support of 100,000 souls, Chu Yang's domain was astonishing, to the extent that they realized that every one of their full-powered attacks were like eggs. The constant bombardment was no different from throwing eggs at a rock. He didn't have any chance to counterattack. Of course, he would never have thought that the 100,000 people he had killed would actually become the driving force behind his death. As the saying goes, you reap what you sow. 7 dark generals, I'm going to start asking you questions now. Chu Yang asked again and again. I said that you are a chicken, a duck, an ant. Do you have any objections? You're a chicken, a duck, an ant. It's only right to kill you. I'm not guilty. Do you have any objections? If I kill you, I'll use the soul-quenching gourd to extract your soul and refine it into pure soul power. Do you have any objections? The 7 dark generals resigned themselves to death, not saying a single word. He had already lowered his eyes. If you don't say anything, I'll take it as you agree. Chu Yang's voice turned cold. 7 dark generals, I'm going to invite you to hell in the name of 100,000 souls. Bang! The domain suddenly squeezed the 7 dark generals, and like a big hand crushing an egg, the 7 dark generals instantly exploded. Swish! The soul-quenching gourd moved and released a suction force. Chu Yang absorbed the 7 dark generals' divine souls into the soul-quenching gourd, suppressing and quenching them. Suddenly, the villagers' panicked screams entered Chu Yang's ears. He looked over and saw the scarred man from the 1,000 Devil sect holding a knife to a woman's neck. His actions caused many of the 1,000 Devil sect's executioners to wake up, and they all did the same. Chapter 665. Haha. The scarred man laughed loudly. Chu Yang, do you dare to kill me? I can guarantee that before I die, this woman will die first. The long saber in his hand gently cut the woman's neck, and a line of blood immediately burst out. Chu Yang, what do you think? The scarred man slowly calmed down from his initial panic. Now, he sneered and actually threatened Chu Yang. You can't bear to see a child die, but can you watch the child's mother die? A child without a mother is so pitiful, don't you think so? Ha ha. The executioners of the Thousand Devil sect no longer had any scruples between life and death, and they laughed loudly. They were the same as the scarred man. Their emotions had mostly changed from fear to ridicule, because this was the only way to have a chance of survival. Chu Yang, who claimed to be a righteous person, couldn't bear to see their atrocities the most. This kind of person was usually soft-hearted and was usually the easiest to deal with, because there were too many flaws in their bodies. They were very familiar with threatening people. They immediately roared at the villagers and ordered, "Why aren't you asking your benefactor Chu to save you?" One of the people from the Thousand Devil sect grabbed the child that the 7 demon generals had threatened before and pinched the child's little head like the 7 demon generals. He laughed mockingly and said, "Little brat, cry again and shout Uncle Chu, save me, I'm still young and don't want to die." Chu Yang also looked at the child. When his gaze met with Chu Yang's, the child actually didn't cry. "Little friend, are you afraid?" Chu Yang didn't put these bastards in his eyes at all. He directly ignored them and spoke to the child warmly. "I'm not afraid." The child, who was originally terrified by the 7 demon generals, actually shouted these 2 words in an incomparably crisp voice when faced with Chu Yang's encouraging gaze. Haha. Chu Yang never thought that the child would actually answer like this. He was surprised and overjoyed. He laughed. "It's good that you're not afraid. These are all animals, just like the chickens and ducks you raise at home. At most, they're just dogs. A dog can scare people. It's good that you're not afraid. Brat, you're courting death." The person who caught the child was about to kill him, but Chu Yang suddenly looked at him coldly. He was so scared that he stopped all his movements. After that, he opened his mouth and said to the child, "Little friend, do you see that? When dealing with animals, he's fiercer than you are. He's nothing but a dog's fart. He can only tuck his tail between his legs and listen obediently." Yang Ziming's heart raced. Chu Yang is still humiliating this person. Isn't he afraid that this person will kill the child out of anger? After all, as long as one was human, one would eventually have a temper. However, he had overestimated the people of the Thousand Devil sect and underestimated Chu Yang. That thing with a scar on its face. Chu Yang's playful voice rang out again. "Let me ask you a question. Are you afraid of the 7 dark generals?" There was no need to ask. Do you think the 7 dark generals are more terrifying, or do you think I am more terrifying? In this way, there was obviously an answer. Chu Yang had killed the 7 dark generals as if he had crushed an egg. In front of the 7 dark generals, do you dare to threaten them with this? Of course, they didn't dare, because the 7 dark generals definitely didn't care about the life and death of these people. Even if they did, they wouldn't dare, because death wasn't a very simple thing. The 7 dark generals could definitely make them suffer a fate worse than death, and they would regret it until their intestines turned green. However, couldn't Chu Yang in front of them do the same? If they killed these villagers, they would probably ask for a fate worse than death. "Now, please tell me what's going on in your mind." Chu Yang said with a smile, "In front of the 7 dark generals, you actually dare to do something that you don't dare to do in front of me. What are you thinking? To be honest, I'm very curious." Haha. The scar-faced man finally laughed out loud again. "Chu Yang, do you think you are as ruthless as the 7 dark generals? Can you exterminate people like the 7 dark generals? The 7 dark generals can watch these people die, but can you? Of course I can't, and I don't need it." Chapter 666. Stubborn. Haha, the scarred man laughed out loud again. "Chu Yang, you boast shamelessly. I admit that you are terrifying, but you can give it a try. See if I can kill this woman before you kill me. Even if I can't, they definitely can." He pointed at the people of the Thousand Devil sect and sneered, "I want to see how many people you can save." Truly stubborn. Chu Yang's voice was incomparably indifferent, and then his expression turned cold. "Alright, you guys want to see, right? Then I'll let you see." Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, a great soul pressure was released from between his eyebrows, instantly enveloping everyone in the Thousand Devil sect. Bang! 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 Immediately, muffled sounds rang out one after another. No one in the Thousand Devil sect could withstand Chu Yang's soul pressure. As soon as his soul pressure pressed down, some of their martial souls directly exploded and their divine souls were destroyed. They died silently. The rest either knelt down or suffered great damage to their divine souls. Without exception, all of them fell beside the villagers. Soul pressure. Your soul pressure. How could it be so ridiculous? What do you think? 100,000 living souls. Do you still need me to explain that? Calling you stupid is an insult to the word stupid. 100,000 living souls. The scarred man instantly lost his voice. What reason did he need? This reason was enough, too enough. 100,000 living souls, a total of nearly 100,000 living souls. How terrifying was that? 100,000 living souls was a very important reason for Chu Yang's soul pressure. Another reason was that his mental strength was very strong. His martial soul was originally very strong, especially the genius martial soul and the fool martial soul. Of course, this was not the only preparation he had. Chu Yang's 10 fingers suddenly pulled. Immediately, all the people of the Thousand Devil sect, whether they were dead or had their divine souls severely injured, were all pulled up by Chu Yang at this moment and were under his control. Above his 10 fingers, shadows appeared one after another. At some point in time, these shadows had already controlled everyone from the Thousand Devil sect. Such methods were simply unfathomable, causing young Ziming to repeatedly cry out in alarm. At this moment, he finally understood why Chu Yang did not care about the threat of the Thousand Demon sect at all. It was because there was no need. Just one of the two methods was enough to ensure that nothing would go wrong. There was no need to worry, and there was no need to compromise. This was originally to guard against that plaything among you, with an impressive martial spirit and divine soul. But it's a pity that you guys are too weak. You can't even give me a little surprise. You guys disappoint me. Chu Yang focused on the scar-faced man from the Thousand Devil sect through the control of the shadows. He saw the scar-faced man dancing, slapping himself in the face, banging his head on the ground, or treating the earth as the sea and swimming on the ground. It could be said that he had a myriad of postures. The knife-scarred man couldn't control his own body, and his entire body was numb. He was dead without a doubt, and could only bitterly wait for the arrival of death in order to be liberated. Please, all children, close your eyes. When all the children in the village closed their eyes, Chu Yang controlled the shadows to strangle everyone from the Thousand Devil sect to death. Then, he collected their souls and directly left. Only a voice floated back from afar. Children, if you are afraid at night, think of your Uncle Chu. Your Uncle Chu specializes in curing all kinds of disobedience. The voice floated into the distance. When the voices of the villagers and Yang Ziming and the others sounded, Chu Yang's figure had already disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he went. Chapter 667. In the soul-quenching gourd, the souls of the Gold Rock Saint Sun and the 7 demon generals were like fish on the chopping board. They were being processed like fish and waiting to be cooked. Everything in their souls was extracted bit by bit and displayed in front of Chu Yang. Soul-devouring art, Gold Rock 18 transformations, Gold Rock extreme speed, Gold Rock dragon binding art, Mother Gourd, 1000 demon world art, Sky Demon 18 arts, 1000 demon hands, their cultivation methods, martial arts experiences, and all kinds of secrets were all laid bare in front of him. Among them, there were some who were extremely disdainful of Chu Yang. Especially the martial experience of the two of them in the ascending soul realm and the soul reincarnation realm. It would allow him to take fewer detours, and also let him know more clearly where the key points of these two realms were. Chu Yang was actually very interested in the Gold Rock Saint Sun's soul-devouring art. The Soul Devourer clan had 3 gourds and 3 profound meanings. Originally, he had obtained the soul-severing gourd's profound meaning, which greatly increased the power of his sword and saber martial spirits. Now that he had obtained the soul-devouring art, it could be said that he had obtained the profound meaning of the Soul Devourer God. As for the Soul Devourer clan's foundation, the 9-revolution indestructible soul scripture, Chu Yang had also obtained it. It could be said that Chu Yang had stolen most of the cultivation techniques of the Soul Devourer clan. These cultivation techniques would be of great use in the ascending soul realm, which was what Chu Yang needed now. In addition to the cultivation techniques, Chu Yang also knew all the secrets of the Gold Rock Saint Sun and the 7 demon generals. This was also the reason why he was in a hurry to leave. What Yang Ziming knew and interrogated was actually not complete. 100,000 souls for one gourd, 10 soul-quenching gourds. This was not wrong, but there was the most important mother gourd that he did not know. The mother gourd was one of the 3 great gourds of the Soul Devourer clan, Soul Devourer gourd. The Soul Devourer gourd was the main body of the 10 soul-quenching gourds. They were all separated from the Soul Devourer gourd. The reason why the soul-quenching gourd could devour other people's souls was because it contained a soul vortex. The original Soul Devourer clan's gourd was even more terrifying. According to what the Gold Rock Holy Sun knew, the soul-devouring gourd contained a soul black hole that could devour all souls and martial spirits. Of course, the devouring power of the two was not on the same level. The souls that could be stored in the gourd were not on the same level. The soul-refining gourd could store 100,000 souls, but the soul-consuming gourd could store 10 million souls. Moreover, the soul-devouring gourd was not only able to convert living souls into pure soul power. It could also produce 9 types of soul flames to refine one's martial soul by devouring souls of the 9 attributes of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, darkness, and light. The 9 revolutions of the 9 revolutions indestructible soul scripture were actually the tempering of these 9 soul fires. This kind of tempering was called the 9 tribulations. After going through the 9 tribulations, one would reach the 9 transformations. After the 9th revolution, not only would the martial spirit possess the 9 most basic attributes, but even if the martial spirit was destroyed, it wouldn't disappear. Instead, it would transform into the 9 most basic elements, and then gather and recombine to recover. This was the meaning of the word indestructible in the 9 revolutions indestructible soul scripture. After that, from the martial spirit to the spiritual soul, it could also allow the spiritual soul to possess the same ability. It could be said that the Soul Devourer clan had a unique way of cultivating martial spirits and spiritual souls. They were the best in the entire Eastern Wilderness. This was also the reason why the Soul Devourer clan was so crazy and massacred so wantonly. What was the difference between 100,000 souls and 10 million souls in one's body? The karma of 100,000 souls was a great burden, and the karma of 10 million souls was just an even bigger burden. Chu Yang had already accepted the karma of 100,000 souls, so he didn't mind accepting the karma of 10 million souls. His saber and sword martial spirits and the flood dragon martial spirits had been upgraded to the 9th grade martial spirits by 100,000 souls. However, his genius martial spirit and fool martial spirit were too powerful. Even 100,000 souls couldn't upgrade them to the 9th grade. From this, one could imagine how difficult it was to upgrade his genius martial spirit and fool martial spirit. If he didn't have any special means, he wouldn't be able to upgrade his 2 martial spirits to the 9th grade or even 2 grades, let alone the 3rd revolution of the Soul Ascension realm. Chapter 668. He cared more about himself. Therefore, Chu Yang was anxious as a spark. If the genius martial soul and the fool martial soul couldn't be improved, he would definitely die in the battle with the 5 elements godchild. Therefore, after killing everyone from the 1,000 Devil sect, Chu Yang immediately started to act. However, he wasn't blind. The Soul Devourer clan and the 1,000 Devil sect had 10 soul tempering gourds and 1 Soul Devourer gourd. Among them, the Soul Devourer elder with the Soul Devourer gourd was the strongest. The Soul Devourer elder of the Soul Devourer clan was at the 9th level of the soul reincarnation realm, infinitely close to the spirit realm. His strength was one level higher than the Gold Rock Saint and the 7 demon generals. In addition, Elder Soul Eater was accompanied by Elder Qian Mo from the Thousand Devil sect. Elder Qian Mo and Elder Soul Eater had the same cultivation. This kind of strength wasn't something that Chu Yang could easily shake. Therefore, after destroying the Gold Rock Saints group, he started to attack the other 9 groups. The other 9 groups were roughly the same strength as the Gold Rock Saint and the 7 demon generals. Therefore, there wasn't much resistance. Chu Yang traveled through the night and destroyed 5 of them. 500,000 souls entered his spiritual world. Because of the shackles of the Genius Martial Soul and the Fool Martial Soul, the Sabersword Martial Soul and the Flood Dragon Martial Soul couldn't be improved, nor could they enter the second revolution of the Soul Ascension realm. The Genius Martial Soul and the Fool Martial Soul, with the support of a total of 600,000 souls, could only be improved to the 3rd level of the Soul Ascension realm. Upgrading to the 3rd grade Martial Soul was only an increase of 2 grades. The 600,000 souls seemed to be believers of the Genius Martial Soul and the Fool Martial Soul. They were like gods. The more believers there were, the more faith power there seemed to be. Their divine kingdoms were also stronger, which was why they were upgraded. Chu Yang felt the upgrade of the Destiny Twins Martial Soul was more or less like this. After 3 consecutive days, the Genius Martial Soul and the Fool Martial Soul were upgraded to the 3rd grade, and Chu Yang's strength increased greatly again. He finally decided to attack the Soul Devourer Elder and Elder Qian Mo. If I don't have 10 million souls, I'm afraid my Genius Martial Spirit and Idiot Martial Spirit won't be able to reach the 9th grade, and I won't be able to enter the 2nd revolution of the Soul Ascension realm. I'll have to take another risk. Chu Yang had already made detailed preparations in his heart. After he finished everything, he restrained his aura and stared at Elder Soul Eater, who was holding the soul-devouring gourd, quietly sneaking over. At this moment, the Soul Devourer clan and the Thousand Devil sect were slaughtering a city, Wei State's Fengmao City. Fengmao City was an extremely rich city in the Wei Kingdom. It was also a very important city in the Wei Kingdom. It provided the Wei Kingdom with a lot of food, wealth, and other things. The Soul Devourer clan and the Thousand Devil sect had their eyes on this place because the population of Fengmao City was extremely large. It was said that there were tens of millions of people. Of course, the real population was not that large, but there should be at least 5 to 6 million people. The consequences of slaughtering a city like Fengmao City would be extremely huge. It would enrage the Wei Kingdom and shake the entire Eastern Wilderness. Then, the Soul Devourer clan's gourd would be able to hold tens of millions of souls and devour them like soybeans. How long would it take? This was also the reason why the Soul Devourer clan and the Thousand Devil sect were so deranged. Of course, they were very experienced in this matter. The small city that they had previously slaughtered seemed to belong to Chenyuan City, but they could not remember it clearly. According to their previous plan, they would strictly carry it out. Although it would cause a huge commotion, it was basically flawless. The people of the Eastern Wilderness could only be suspicious at most. At least, they thought so. At least, it was so. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.